Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Tyler. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Good, man. Good to be here.
Very good for you to have you back. Apologize, we're a little late starting today. You can take that fully on myself. Just a series of things that we were getting fixed up. But I did remember to fix the audio. Also joining us this week.
Yay!
He's back. 2+ tough. Doug, the hero
Hey,
we all
everybody.
wanted and needed. What's going on, buddy?
Hi. Hi. Thank you all for having me back.
Doug, it's a crime we don't have you on basically every other week. That's all I'll say. You're a ray of positivity and light in this hobby, and we're glad to have you on anytime.
Well, thank you. Yeah, happy to be on.
Absolutely. Tonight we're going to be talking about what I'll say is the potential runner-up, or at least top 3 finisher. Yes, indeed. From last week's show, which is, yes, exactly, FEC. Last week, Doug, I don't know if you went back and watched, but we did discuss best lore. And I couldn't in the end, in good conscience, give it to FEC. Because although they have a great story, by the definitions we had come up with, which is, other criteria to judge on, right, than just the first. So there was one that was like, do they have an awesome, compelling story? 2, do they have meaningful characters that you can like follow and connect with? And then 3, do they actually play a role in the world? And FEC flying colors on number 1, incredibly cool story, maybe the coolest story. Number 2, not really. Very few actual characters we can grip onto or empathize with, especially not until recently when we got Jerry.
Yeah,
he's a cool dude, and now we got Usharon, but we haven't got to see much of him yet, obviously. And we've got like that book really talking about him, other than other people mentioning him. And then things they did in the world, basically nothing. They were always just around. FEC never really. You look at all the past stories written in, like sort of the story leading up to this point, and they were sure not appearing in this film. It was a real shame. I mean, they were always cool, but that was the problem. But they're still top 3. Still top 3.
I agree. They are just now getting the characters and the meaningful input into the overarching story. So maybe next year it'll be a different conversation, but for right now, of course. But one thing I did want to say is, first of all, I totally agree with Tom that all the Chaos factions are like stagnate. And then what was the other hot take that I really liked? As far as the Flesh Eater courts go, I will say they are my number 1 faction in terms of trajectory, meaning they started at one level and they've only gotten deeper.
Yeah.
As opposed to like Lumineth, who are now like, I don't know, 4 Battletomes in, nothing's really changed.
Yep. It's funny you say that. Like if I will say I agree with your point more than Tom's point, because Tom didn't phrase it as smartly as you did. But I like legitimately, this has been a thing for me that I thought about many times, being sort of a philosophy person. It did always occur to me as ironic that the Chaos faction, the one that's about tumult and chaos, which means generally a lack of stability, right? That would be the sort of generally accepted definition of chaos, I suppose, is the most stable, predictable, ordered, unchanging, undynamic set of factions, other than Skaven.
All I'm hearing is that a corn man is what every woman wants in the mortal realms. Like, he will get you dinner.
Yeah.
And he's the most steady man there is.
It's really true. And it's wild because, yes, they're so predictable because we, the audience, can't accept that our beloved little toys will change in some way, right?
Yes.
GW is forced to hold them in amber, even though you would think such gods would be constantly, like, changing. And, like, if Neil Gaiman was writing this story, they would not act like they do. Let me just say that. They would be real chaos gods.
Well, they would have met each other from the future and gone back to the past and high-fived, so.
Which would have been great. Anyways, we're going to talk about FEC in more detail tonight. But, of course, first, the news. What do we got?
The news. Rumor engine. Got some advent calendars.
We do. I started. I did not bring all of these up. Okay? I just didn't. Because Most of them are bad and boring, and I don't care to guess at them. But this is a Stormcast buckler. So.
Yep.
Or not buckler, but
Yeah, it does look like exactly like the kind of like the Vanguard ones. They had a lot of those little pilgrim pouches on the little buckles everywhere.
There's a little symbol. You can see it's kind of covered up down by the little Christmas lights, but it's there. Yep. So a new Stormcast thing. Does this mean Stormcast is our other faction in the 4.0 starter box? Yes, probably. So
was that a debate?
I mean, people don't want it, I think. I was personally hoping they'd do Cities, because I thought Cities would be a better pairing with Skaven, who I still will fully believe is in the faction. Or in the starter box, sorry. And then, but like, the real money is on Stormcast. Look, Space Marines kick off 40k editions, Stormcast kick off AOS editions. You can hate it all you want, but there it is. Okay. Warpstone Enjoyer said, weird that it's not framed against anything. That's because of Photoshop, my dog, most likely. Yep. They do edit these. Okay. And then this is the other advent calendar I got. This is the little gas thing with gas leaking out and a little thing on it, because I'm just going to say that's a Skaven thing. That's all.
It definitely looks like it, yeah.
Doesn't have to be. It could be a 40k vehicle. It could be 100 things. But I don't care. I'm just going to say it's a Skaven thing. And I hear you out there saying Skaven don't have tassels on the top of their thing. Shut up. How about that? How you like that? How you like that rebuttal? Shut your face. I say it's a Skaven thing.
I think it is. Who else has sensors? Like, not a lot. I mean,
it could be like 40k or anything.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's right. I didn't even think about that.
They have a lot of vehicles that have little things with smoke coming out of it, right? So, like, whatever. And if that's the case, that's fine. That's fine. But either way, I'm good with it. So there you go. Those are done. What's next?
USR in Old World. I imagine that's Universal Special Rules in the Old World.
It is indeed, my dog. It is indeed. Little Old World talk here. So the most recent article was about Universal Special Rules. Yes. Doug, what are your thoughts on these? Did you look at this article at all?
Not the specific one. World? No. Not even a little. It seems like they... Can I have a moment of the spotlight?
Always.
I feel like they knew they wanted to bank in on the IP, and then the scope of this has gotten nothing but smaller and not like focused like a laser, just smaller. And I don't know. I mean, there are some interesting things. I have been following like the design because I like the idea of rank and flank. So seeing the different ways that people talk about movement and charges is great. I like that there's some refreshing, but all in all, it kind of just seems like over-promising and building up a lot of, I don't know. There was a lot of mean people when AOS first launched in my comments, and I find them coming back in throngs. And I'm like, meh. So,
well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm saying is that they're cultivating an enthusiasm for and with a crowd of the old kind of guards of gamers who have no intention of adding, I don't know what to say, positivity, I guess. It's never going to be enough. No matter what they release, it's always going to be garbage. Because it doesn't take them back to 2007 when they had Flush with Cash. Deborah was still there. She didn't take the kids yet. Like all that kind of stuff. But
yes, exactly.
No, it just okay. I was sorry. That was a tangent, but yes, my enthusiasm kind of got chipped away.
Yep. So here we are with Grail Knights, and in the article they talk about USRs, Universal Special Rules. That's what this is all about. So let's take a look at this. Now, first of all, this unit just feels like a nightmare right out of the gate, and this is a pretty simple unit. I will point out, like it's basically built. Because they already have all of their weapons, hand weapons, lances, heavy armor, and shields. You're not buying those things individually. Many units will have those as upgrades, those kinds of things. Instead, they only go upgrade, pay for their champion, their standard bearer, their musician, and then they can buy a magic standard, and then you can buy, the champion can actually take a magic item, which is unusual. That was always a Grail Knight thing. So your champion dude can actually have a magic item. Good for him. Even though he's not a hero, because he's so amazing as to basically be a hero. But anyways, the special rules. Blessings of the Lady, Close Order, Countercharge, Finest Warhorses, First Charge, Lance Formation, Living Saints, Swift Stride, the Grail Vow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They have 9 universal special rules. In the article, they talked about how there are 75 universal special rules, or ish. I've been on record as saying I don't like universal special rules. I am actually strongly against them. And a lot of people come to me and say, but why? But why, Vince? Universal special rules are something that AOS could benefit from because, it would, then all chariot impact hits would be the same or whatever. You can pick your thing you like, right? The problem with special rules is, universal special rules, is that they create obfuscated information. Hidden information. Okay? So, because let's just break this down for a minute. Blessings of the Lady. Where do you think I'm going to look to find that universal special rule? Where specifically would I find that?
Blessings of the Lady?
Yeah, like take a guess.
Prayers,
what
magic.
publication when this comes out?
Oh, core rules?
Core rules, core book, yeah.
Do you think so, really? The Blessings of the Lady, the Bretonnian army specific universal special rule that gives them a word save? Or do you think that's going to be in the Bretonnian
army
book? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant the actual box set with those two. Like, of course it'll be in the quick start guide. Okay.
Sure.
I see what you're saying.
Yes. Okay. So that one's in the Bretonnian book. Let's say and then Close Order. That's how they rank up, right? So where's that one at?
Yeah, that feels like that might be a core rules thing.
Okay. Right. Agreed.
Yeah.
Probably in the core rules. Okay.
Same with countercharge.
Countercharge. Where's that at?
Not necessarily. Oh yeah, no, fair. Like countercharge could be core rules.
But now let's get deeper. You're hoping that in the core rules they have an entire section that just says universal special rules that's alphabetically organized. Okay? I'm hoping so too. I'm hoping that there's like a rules glossary at the end that has all the USRs, right?
Yeah.
And they're all in alphabetical order. And that's the core rules ones. And then in your book, they're going to be different. The point I'm getting at here is eventually you're going to have people who have 3 different books you're looking at to find those things. Now, if you know them all off the top of your head because you're super deep into the game, then they are faster. Okay? Because they completely standardize things, right, of how they work. However, if you're new to the game, they're an incredible hurdle because they have no explanatory text anywhere on this thing. This is the thing I'm using to play with this toy.
Yeah.
Right? And this toy rule sheet that I have, the rule sheet for my toy, does not contain all of the rules for my toy. I have to go read 2 other books, and if let's say because they are published, they put all the Brett ones and the Tomb King ones in the core book. I don't care. That's not my point. Right, because they will publish additional books. Like, not all of the USRs will be in the core book. My point stands whether or not this particular one works. You now have to go read into 2 different books, so you're now using like 3 books to play with your toy. And moreover, you're flipping pages to play with your toy. What page is it on? You don't know where the glossary is that has the USRs. It obscures information. Magic the Gathering has an equivalent of universal special rules, things like First Strike and Trample and stuff like that. When they print those in beginner sets, they print the entire text of what that rule does after it, right? For anything that's beyond the core vanilla abilities, like First Strike or Trample, like when they print a new one in a set, the cards will give the full explainer text on there, right? So like this thing, Madness, right? That's a universal special rule in Magic Madness, right? But they only on when they print Madness, since it's a non-standard one, it's an expert level thing, they'll print Madness, this mana cost, parens. Madness, when you discard this card, you may pay this cost as an alternative. This you then cast the spell from exile. Pop, 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 pop. Close parens. The rules are on the game piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is my problem with universal special rules. They obscure information. If your point when you're talking about USRs with AOS is you think things should be standardized, then you and I have no disagreement. Okay. I want text to be standardized for the most part. If something acts differently, then let it act differently. I actually hate USRs as well because then they force standardization. Designers get lazy. They stop thinking of doing top-down design of how should this unit act? What should be its unique functions? Okay. What creates its verisimilitude in the world? And instead they just say, bottom-up design, I don't know, what special rules can we pack on this thing? What's close enough? It's good enough. Right?
I find personally, I mean, you have infinitely more game experience designing and stuff like that than I do, but I find that universal special rules are a language to be able to convey, obviously, larger rules or larger ideas. But the problem is that it also limits the vocabulary of the designers, because now you have to operate within first strike, re-rolling ones, and whatever things you stack on top of those.
Yep.
And so, like you were saying, you start with what do Beasts of Chaos do? They run and charge, kind of a thing. Like that would be a universal special rule, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, if we had codified things, if, like, every time you saw the words impact hits or something, it had the same, that text was exactly the same of what followed it, and it was printed on the war scroll. Like, after this unit completes a charge, you may roll a D6. If you do, and, you know, on the roll of a 2-up, you do D3 mortal wounds.
Yep.
Great. I have no problems with this, and if that's how impact hits standardized across most chariots work, that's fine. But then when they make the big, giant, crazy bladed chariot, I want them to say, to make a different thing called, like, you know, slicey a dicey chariot, right? That's like, when it hits, you roll a d6 and you do a number of mortal wounds equal to the roll or something, right? Like get nuts with it, you know? So that's what, that's where I have I take umbrage with universal special rules, is that they end up obscuring information for sake of brevity and printing on a page. Waste the digital ink, right? Because it makes it easier for new players to play your game. But I mean, nothing I've seen so far about this game says it's targeted at new players, which is a shame. This feels very targeted at people who already love Warhammer Fantasy. Like, I cannot figure out what about this would be interesting to someone who's brand new and coming into the wargame space right now.
No, I mean, they fully support Horus Heresy. They dump buckets of content for it and models. I play it. I have a beautiful army. I don't even know how to start a series to explaining how to someone, like, how do you just start? Like, I already had this crap laying around from trades and stuff. But it's, these kind of higher level games, Horus Heresy, the old world's looking like it, of just that there's no consumer path to start doing this. And they don't put the design philosophy behind that. Like, what's going to bring a new person to be like, here's the Age of Sigmar shelf. What's that back there? It's old world. You know, I mean, we still see that sometimes with people who don't know miniature games, but do know Lord of the Rings. They might walk in and be like, what the hell is all this? And then they see Aragorn in the corner. They're like, hey, I know that guy.
Yeah, sure.
But they're not building that same thing with old world or Heresy. Yeah.
Agreed. So, at any rate, I had a universal special rule rant. I'm not going to lie. That's why I teed up this particular news item. So, there we go.
We just like driving home from work, just stewing about universal special rules.
Well, I work from right here at this seat, but yes, I would. But
okay.
Other than the driving thing, yes, you're exactly correct. I saw this article earlier today, and I was just like, getting me running. Immediately grinded my gears. So,
that's awesome.
You know, there you go. Okay. And Pat Noon says AOS wasn't easy to learn, but I doubt I'm going to find too many other games of a similar size apart from 40K that I want to cram more rules to remember my brain for. You're absolutely right, Pat. And this is a problem we've railed against on this show many times. I think AOS has become way too new person unfriendly as well. It's a problem. All right, cool. Let's keep going though. What's next in the news?
We had some facts come out today.
We did. Let me bring those up. Bow. There we go. Dawnbringer's Book 3, The Long Hunt. Okay. So, does Ionis continue to burn you to death even if he dies? Yes. That's fun. That's fun. Like,
Is
once-
that and that's on top of if he then dies, now he's whatever type of stormcast and like lightning zaps people, everybody.
Yeah, he still thunder strikes
Okay.
like normal.
Yeah. Thunderstrike. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word.
You okay? Which is fun. Yeah, like that's cool. I like that. You know, neat. And then the big change we had to both here and to the other two big dragons is their -1 attacks characteristic was reduced in efficacy. Like the timing of it also changes. Like it has an actual trigger now, and it changed so it's pick one enemy unit. Now, I believe this is done for largely rules clarification reasons, though I'm not sure why it was reduced to one enemy unit. I guess just to, like, somebody thought to have a trigger, we have to have one unit, but I don't understand why that would be. Because in the old wording, there was a challenge that would happen with, like, split attacks and other things like that. Because it was only triggered by the attacker attacking that they technically were then put under the effect of the rule. As opposed to now, it's a start of combat trigger, so it's just sitting on you happening.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I don't feel like this book had nearly as many issues as the second one. I mean, in terms of just like raw design problems.
Yeah.
So it's bad if I notice it. Like that's kind of my bar.
Yep. And like it's fine. Okay. Cool. It's all right. And then as well, the command trait got an update also that after this general is fought for the first time in the combat phase and slain models, if any, have been removed from play. If there are no enemies within 3 inches, roll a die. On a 2-up, this general can immediately make a d6 move and can finish that move within 3 inches of any enemy units. So, there you go. Cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was previously, but yeah, if anybody knows, leave it. Let us know. But yeah,
Mergonk's in the chat. Mergonk, I don't remember exactly what's changed here, but I believe this was like a timing change on exactly how it's happened to prevent it from getting stuck because it had a bad rules interaction. I think if you killed the unit, I believe. So, but Mergonk can say for sure because I'm sure he remembers exactly.
For sure.
Anyways. And then, hey, Neve and her companions and Ionis all got the Thunderstrike keyword, which I guess was controversial since Ionis hasn't been reforged. And as I said before the show, Ionis is best friends with God. God can give him new armor. That's how that works. Yeah.
Well, I want a Deepkin player to find some interaction. There's no way to use the Deepkin lady who's the companion model-wise, like to trigger anything weird if you have allies or anything like that. I'm trying to think of anything.
Nothing that I can think of now. I mean, I like the Knave and her companions. I think the Black Talons are like a super cool unit. One of the most visually stunning units we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I just want to find some way to use a Thunderstrike Deepkin to some great effect for no reason.
Sure. I understand. So, yeah, that's cool. And then, yeah, exactly. The giant rat that makes all the rules. Yes, exactly. Thank God. God can give him armor. Yes, exactly.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
All right. And then we had Stormcast, and yeah, that's just Karndus and Karzai. There was also some small changes to Fire Slayers and one change to Beasts of Chaos as well.
Yeah, Nighthaunt. The Nighthaunt one was similar to, again, it's only one enemy unit as opposed to potentially. So, yeah, we don't know why they have done this, but if nothing else, it looks like they're aiming for consistency with some of these modifications, where it's the same language at the start of the combat phase. You can pick one enemy unit within 1 inch. This is the artifact power Cloak of the Waxing Moon for Nighthaunt. Previously, it would allow you to, it was any attacks that targeted the bearer. So multiple enemy units potentially could have their attack characteristic reduced by 1.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I mean, the timing-wise around splitting attacks is clear. I just don't know why we suddenly had to limit it to 1. That's the weird thing.
Yeah.
Because you could have just said, at the start of the combat phase, you may pick any number of units within 3 inches of this unit. And it's like, that's...
Sure.
Right? the text isn't like didn't. But I understand the nature of the rules cleanup. I just don't know why we.
Yeah.
I just don't know why we limited it to one. But hey, whatevs. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, the Vulcan Flameseekers are more interesting now, which is great because they're the best models in that entire range. So
Oh, that's not even a
more
close race.
more reasons to play them.
Those flame seekers are so out in front. The rest of the fire slayers can't even see them. They're like they don't even know they're in a race with the other fire slayers anymore. They're so far
It's
behind.
true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there you go. Okay. Cool. And then they had accidentally republished the cities thing, but they changed the date on it, but nothing actually changed. So there we go.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let's move to the next part. Let's talk some pick the week. Doug, you want to start us out?
Yes.
What pick of the week would you like to share with everybody?
Yeah, so my pick of the week was a YouTube channel called Dice and Demons. And I was introduced to this channel via AOS Coach, had shared one of their videos, and it's hosted a very sweet person named Emma. And in addition to like all kinds of painting tutorials, there's lots of great high contrast paint schemes, which is what I like. Where it's like comic booky almost. I guess kind of my way of saying it. But she also has great content just about gamer life stuff. So, for example, one video is like going to an event if you have autism and getting a sense of what different perspectives are like when you start going to those things. I mean, my most recent one was Adepticon last year. And it's just deafening. And it's just, I don't know, there was just very overwhelming. And so I really appreciated someone having content out there speaking to that. And so just wanted to give a shout out. It's just overall fantastic channel.
Very nice. I love it. Yeah. Find it down in the description below. Wonderful. Tyler, what do you got for everybody?
Yeah, that's a great one, Doug. I had not seen her channel, just subscribed, so look forward to checking that out. And I've got two. So first one is Weak and Decadent. I have friends from Colorado, or I think they're both in Colorado. Thomas and Shannon. Shannon, I would put up as the most passionate Flesh Eater Quartz player in the world. One of the, certainly, in the running for most passionate
Fully
Flesh Eater
into the
Quartz
delusion.
player. Fully. Well, he can speak to that. I don't want to judge the man. He's he's great. They did a fantastic review. There are so many good reviews of this Battletome that are out there. We are maybe, possibly, I think fashionably late because of our guest, I'll say. But we are certainly later than usual, which I appreciated for once, than your usual schedule with these Battletomes that you've been forced into with these things. So that was amazing. The other one was Plastic Crack, which I seem to be shouting out every other week when I'm on the show, which hasn't been that frequent. And Doug, have you seen this blog? The one that I used to pronounce as Plastic Crack?
Yes, actually, I believe they have a bunch of like Bone Splitters content at one point.
They did, yeah. They are leading the charge on the Destro Bros Brigade.
Yes. So that's my introduction to that, yes.
Nice. They've had a bunch of amazing articles on Flesh Eater Quartz. Calvin over there in particular. Nico came out with one today on lots of different rules shenanigans, so that was interesting. But yeah, highly recommend. My favorite was the list building article, just showing the depth of this Battletome, as we'll get into. Yeah, those are the two.
Very nice. For myself, again, if you can't get enough FEC Flesh Eater Quartz content in your ear holes, I have linked Heywo down below his review, which was reposted on, of course, his secondary streaming channel, Heywo Plus. And you can check that out on YouTube.
He's finding ways to be more, to extract more Heywo out of Heywo. At least in my sense of it. You know, like I'm getting to the point I'm having a hard time following some of his language and like his spellings of.
Oh sure. You got it. This is like this review is deep into it. It's deep in the Heywo.
I'm excited to watch it.
Universe, yeah. So it's really good. Check it out. Everything we mentioned is linked down below. And hey, if you like everything so far, why not hit like or subscribe or do those things? It's fun. It helps other people find the show, especially while we're going live. The more you hit like, the more YouTube recommends this to other people. So isn't that cool? We could have new friends come and join us. All right. With that, let's talk about some hobby time. Doug,
Yeah.
you had anything on the desk recently? What have you been painting?
A ton of stuff. So I cranked out the Flesh Eater Quartz box that GW was kind enough to send me. But I kind of like was in a freezing pattern until I saw what the new Vanguard box is going to be like, because I want to be able to have content where I start from there and then build out into a larger army. So I kind of paused around like 1,400 points. I have 30 ghouls I can build, but I'm not in a rush. And then, I built, painted, and gave away a Shatterpoint game,
the
Star Wars. Yeah,
Nice.
a local friend here. He got a bonus at work, went into the game store and bought it, but not knowing it was miniatures. Like he thought it was pre-made dudes, and he was so despondent. He just gave it to me, and so I built it, painted it, gave it right back to him. Made him so stoked. And then this here is a present for my cousin. She has one of those like Christmas villages, and she really wanted a Cousin Eddie from National Lampoon's RV.
Nice.
So I went ahead, found one on Etsy. It's a MDF thing. I painted it up.
That is amazing. That is truly an amazing gift.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love that. That's
Wonderful.
So
you have definitely been busy. You love to see it, and in the giving spirit here as well. How appropriate for this holiday season. Tyler, what about you? Are we are we still scheming? We still planning? It's been a hot minute. Are we on to paint on a model yet? Have we assembled anything?
Terrain counts as a model. So
it does, yeah. Terrain painting counts. Yes.
Yeah.
Some dry brushing has begun on one of Anthony Polcastro's terrain sets. I've been sitting in my garage for far too long. So he sent me, it was actually the day after when, oh God, I'm going to date. It's been a long time. He gave me an Ogre Mod Tribes themed terrain set that's been in my garage forever. And I'm starting to practice with some of Byron's dry brushing technique videos.
Okay.
On this terrain. So Artist
That's
Opus, awesome. I've talked about it. Yeah. Byron's all about the dry brushing, so it's going well, I think.
Hey, that completely counts. That is full-fledged, unabashed hobby time. There is nothing wrong with that whatsoever. It's 100%.
Been playing a lot of games with Soulblight Gravelords. That's been a nice change of pace. Fiddling around with lots of 25mm models for once. And think I'm going to try to bring them to some GTs next year. Actually apply little gas in 2024. Kind of had my fill of very little gas in my tournament list. So yeah, that'll be a nice change. Warcode website is done. I actually need you to take a look at it for certain reasons. I'll be sending that to you shortly. So yeah, that's all me.
Very nice. For myself, go ahead, Doug.
I was just going to ask, will Warcode have new missions by Adepticon?
It will.
Okay.
Very, very much so. I wanted to ask you about it, a certain event description at midnight doing one-eye scrolling the other night. And
as one does.
Yeah, absolutely. It looked... Anyway, yeah, I'm excited to talk with you about that.
Yeah. Okay. So if you don't know, I'm running the Youngbloods event at Adepticon, and last year we used the Warcode missions, and they were just very simple one-page print-offs, and they were very helpful for teaching people because we did it with 8 to 14-year-old kids, and I had a great time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Nice.
Hear that, everybody? If you're between the ages of 8 and 14, and only that range, Warcode is
exactly.
Exactly.
Thank you, Doug.
Perfect. Nailed it. You found
just saying
your
it's so
audience.
easy, even a kid can do it. I'm just saying.
What he's saying is Tyler, what you write is for children. For children, Tyler. How dare you? How
it's
dare
a Rubik's
you make
Cube with
things
one square
consumable by the young with their unformed brains.
Right.
All right. Okay. So on my table, first of all, I'm finishing up 2 more of these little boys right here. Bloop, bloop. There they are. Little Morbeg Knights. We'll talk about them tonight. My dog is in here with me, as you can see.
There he is.
She is. And so I got 2 more of these guys to do. To have my unit done. Here, we'll...
Aw.
Oh, Pupper.
What's her name?
Her name is Lyra. This is my dog, as it were.
Okay.
The other 2 are in the room as well. They're just being quiet.
Yeah.
But everybody hit like for Lyra, because Lyra is a perfect dog. So at any rate, and then the other thing that I worked on was I had a paint jam this last weekend. Sam and Mr. John Ninas and Uncle Adam all came here, and we hung out for the whole weekend and did nothing but paint and play a little Magic and watch a lot of videos and stuff like that. But it was mostly painting, and so I thought I would share this, as I thought this would be a fun thing. So this will come up on your 2 screens in a moment if you're watching live.
You pull out the bust that you guys did?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think you probably already know the answer to this, Tyler.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you remember, but I wanted to share this with everyone to see if they could, have some thoughts as to who painted what. So you can drop in the comments in order here. So 1, 2, 3, basically 1, 2, 3 from left to right. Between myself, Ninjon, and Sam Lenz, who painted which model? Let's see some guesses. Okay.
Okay, wait. When are you going to reveal the answer?
I'll reveal the answer in a little while.
Okay.
I'll give you time. We got to let the guesses happen in the comments first. I'll let the guesses.
So it's you, Sam Lenz, and Ninjon. Okay.
And Ninjon, yeah, exactly. Yes. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and then the guesses. There you go. Drop them in there. Okay. So we'll see how good everybody's guessing is. We got them rolling in. Okay.
What do you think, Tyler?
I think Tyler.
Well, I already know.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I sent them to Tyler, and he had and shared them with him already.
Oh, okay. Well, if I'm the only the blind guest react, I'm going to say, in order it goes, Sam Lenz, Ninjon, Vince.
Okay. All right.
3, 2, 1.
All right. We'll see. I'll let some more guesses roll in. All right.
Although, I don't know enough about Sam Lenz's work.
Okay. Looks like we got plenty of guesses in, so I'm gonna go ahead and now let's give the answer. The answer is Doug. You were exactly correct.
Yep.
Congratulations. The red
Impressive.
is Sam, who went much brighter than he normally does. And I think he learned something about himself. He just kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing the light
That's
around.
what threw me off. I was
gorgeous. Yeah, Sam is often a very dark painter.
Yeah.
So I actually got that through process of elimination.
Okay.
Okay, so because I said I don't know Sam Lenz's work, but I have been using bottle after bottle of Ninjon's Dark Ivory, which is what I see very reminiscent of in the middle picture. And then if there's ever a teal and then a magenta combination, that's Vince.
Even if it's incredibly desaturated, I can't help myself. Yes.
And then I was like, yeah.
There you go. The middle one is John. Now, to be fair to John, because I don't want to disparage him, that's maybe like 3 hours of painting. Okay? Maybe. And that's probably tops. Because John was working on his Golden Demon project all weekend, so he only painted this for like 3 hours when he was needing a break from his very tiny focus on his Golden Demon stuff. So I won't reveal that because it's not my place to reveal what he's working on for Golden Demon. But needless to say, it was very impressive, and he did a lot of great work. And that was where he spent the vast majority of his probably 50 hours, 60 hours, whatever. I don't know however much painting time we had. A lot working was on his Golden Demon piece. So And then the last one is the zombie is me. Very happy with how that is, and I'll prove it to you that she's me. There you go. There she is right there. So
Nice.
I'm still refining some of the work since this picture is taken. I've done more to her, as I took that before everybody left, and we'll go from there. But overall, I have to say I'm very happy with how this piece came out. It was it was an interesting journey there. So yeah,
Gorgeous work.
Okay, cool. So at any rate, with that over, let us go ahead and start the main topic, shall we? Shall we talk about, gentlemen, some Flesh Eater Quartz?
Absolutely. I got my book right here.
Okay. Okay. So, FEC. Let's get to a little summary first off. Here's my summary of the army. It is a glass cannon recursion army. Lots of low saves and troops that hit hard but die easily, then come back. So nothing too shocking off of the way that they've always fought. Still largely a melee army. They've got some screaming for fun and profit, but it's largely a melee army. The heroes have become more of a focal point than perhaps they have been in the past because of noble deeds. They end up being the beacons for special rules of all sorts of varying types. Heroes have always been very important to this army for various and sundry reasons, but now even more so. And they ended up, because they moved everything onto these noble deeds points, which we'll talk about. There's now a real push and pull between using your little special points system and keeping them for various bonuses. And importantly, the new characters and models add, I think, a lot to the army.
Yes.
There's been a lot of versatility and capability added to this army because of the new models, basically. That's my summary. All right, Doug, what do you think? Is there anything I missed there? Anything from your 40,000 foot view of this army that you want to share?
Not really much more than that. I feel like the one minor criticism I have overall is that I feel like the artifacts are a little bit. There's just some really good ones and some real losers, which there are in everything. But I feel like it was a little bit more exacerbated here. But beyond that, no, I feel like everything you said. I think the glow up that heroes received, in addition to them also becoming kind of the forefront of the rules, they kind of have to be taken at the same time, because if you were a Flesh Eater Court player before, all of a sudden your courtiers are next level important, like way bigger. And so, I don't know. I liked it.
Okay. Tyler?
Yes, I'm a big fan of this Battletome. It's certainly in the running for, I think, one of the better Battletomes of the entire year for me. Now, I mean, we had a year of jank, so we're grading on a curve here, Doug. We had a lot of jank this year as we got into during the Thanksgiving show, or post Thanksgiving show, as it were. With there are some potential concerns. I suspect they're going to be okay. If they're not, they're easy to address. Very easy to address, I think.
I agree.
They're very points changes, some modifications through an errata. So I think that'll be okay. Tremendous depth with this Battletome. It's a list builder stream. I think it's great if you're a Timmy, it's great if you're a Spike, and it's phenomenal if you're a Johnny. This is a Johnny book, first and foremost. I'm highly biased in that regard, but this book just sings to me on that front in terms of the kind of list that you can put together. They did a great job with most of these Warscrolls. I think most of the sub-factions are interesting. I love the Courts of Delusion. We'll get into that, how that's been done, the options that creates. Yeah. There are a few misses, as you said. Not everything is perfect. But yeah, in general, high level, I'm an enormous fan. I love this book.
Yeah. I agree with all that. I think this, when it comes to overall power level, my read on this is we're probably in the right place here. And if there's anything that's wrong, I think most everything could be fixed by points.
I agree.
So I think that's a good thing. There's nothing that I read here that I immediately. So I did get one test game in with this so far.
I did too.
Yeah, awesome.
Nice.
Oh, excellent. So, and I'll talk about my army because I did screw up army building and that influenced my play a little bit. But, I mean, that's what you get when you take a book, read it through once, and then build an army and go play it, right? That's how it works. You make mistakes. Hey, who would have thought, right? But like there are things that make me sad about it. There are things that make me happy about it. Overall, I didn't feel like I was playing with something that was, it didn't feel like the first time you put Soulblight Gravelords on the table when that book came out or whatever.
Right.
Pick your jank, obviously bent book, right?
I do think there is a tempo that you have to get used to now with the amount of recursion and summoning. It's different than it was before. Where it's, I don't know. I feel like you're going to see your units deplete and come back and top off, and like you have to be comfortable with that and kind of get used to the flow of that.
I agree. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the general allegiance abilities. We're going to take a story break in the middle, Doug. Did you read the story in this book?
I did.
Okay, good. I was hoping you did because I didn't. So I was going to go to you and have you share a story break in the middle. So in between allegiance abilities and Warscrolls, we're going to do a story break. Instead of talking about stupid Path to Glory or wasting our time with battle tactics and grand strategies that shouldn't be in these books anyways. Instead, we're going to do something more useful and have Doug share a little lore story with us about what goes on in this book because I am interested. Okay.
Huzzah.
But first, we will start with the allegiance abilities, as I'm sure people are curious as to what's going on here. So let's get into it. First off, we got our Deathless Courtiers, past the Crevassiers. Nothing too exciting. It's our standard 6-up ward for undead now. Don't need a hero near it. Nothing like that. Just the standard way it works now. It's just a 6-up ward. Congratulations. Okay, cool. Neat. Now let's get to the real rules. Here we go. Noble Deeds. Okay. Tuck in, folks, because this is your new main rule. Like, this is your thing. If you're Flesh Eater Courts, this is your thing. So, each time a friendly Flesh Eater Courts hero successfully Noble Deeds are a point system you earn. Start there.
Yes.
How do I earn them, you might ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. How intuitive of you. Each time a friendly Flesh Eater Courts hero successfully casts a spell that is not unbound, they get a point. Each time they chant a prayer that is answered, they get a point. Each time a friendly Flesh Eater Courts hero fights, after all of its attacks have been resolved, give that hero a number of Noble Deeds points equal to the number of wounds and or mortal wounds caused by that hero in that phase that were allocated to enemy units. Do not count wounds and or mortal wounds caused by that hero's mount. So only the hero themselves. No Terrorgeist freebies.
Yep, you got to remind people. New players might not understand that, so just notice that if your opponent tries to sneak it.
And you can have a maximum of 6 Noble Deeds points at any one time, and you cannot get any more until your number has been reduced to less than 6. There are ways to spend this, as we will come to on the next page. But let's just start here. Now, I'll state this is not the only ways to get Noble Deeds points in the books. There are 2 primary other ways you're going to be getting them. One is the heroic action we're about to see on the next page, which, as near as I can tell, does nothing. At least that's what you would believe if you had watched my first game, wherein I used that heroic action every round, had 4 units in range that it was triggering on, and got a total over 4 rounds of rolling of 2 Noble Deeds points. Real winner there.
Yep.
But that's just my dice, not a statement on the rule. The other way you'll do it is by putting your hero into the Charnel Throne, because then that will accrue them Noble Deeds points as well. But looking at the base rules, what we have to take into account here is the following. If your hero is not a spellcaster or priest, then the only way they get these points is by fighting. And many of your little bad foot heroes are not capable of fighting to any degree. Okay?
Certainly, they can be pretty good at dying.
Yes, they are.
yeah.
Like, if you put them into combat, they die pretty fast. Pretty fast. So, yeah. And so, Rory TB says the prayer can be triggered outside of combat for nobility 2. The prayer can be triggered outside of combat for nobility 2. Just kill models. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure what you mean, Rory. Sorry, I'm not getting what you're saying there. But at any rate, the point being is that you're highly encouraged to go fight with these idiots who most of them can't fight. So when we review the heroes and you think about how cool it would be if they had noble deeds points, just remember it can be tough depending on your subfaction, your heroic action allocation, and who's standing in the throne to get that many noble deeds points if they're not a priest or a wizard. Okay. And many of the courtiers aren't, and yet want noble deeds points a lot because that's going to gen up an engine, right?
Yeah.
So, okay.
They might be more prone to be in the right position as well to leverage those noble deed points. So, yeah. Doug, what do you think about noble deeds?
Honestly, when I hit this part of the book, I went, "Oh, F," and I just skipped to the prayer section because I was really excited they got a prayer lore.
Sure.
But that's about my initial thought. Beyond that, my initial reaction to this is like, okay, so if you can't have the mounts attack, that means 2 and 3 inch range weapons are everything. And so, like, we'll look at the different units that have that. But the idea, there's very few heroes, to Vince's point, that aren't priests, that aren't wizards, and I think have a reasonable shot at like delivering combat, but more importantly, surviving the next round to be able to do anything meaningful with whatever they just earned. So I think about like bubble wrapping stuff in ghouls. That's about the best I can do if they have reach. I don't know.
Right. Nope, you're absolutely right. Okay, we'll talk about it here in a moment. But first, let's talk about what happens if you don't spend the points, which is Feeding Frenzy. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Flesh Eater Quartz units while they are wholly within 12 inches of any friendly heroes that have 6 Noble Deeds points. Okay. So, that's cool. +1 attack for your army. Hey, pretty good. Yeah, I mean, all right. So that's a clear incentive to run to 6 and then stay there, right? But let's talk about what else we could spend these on, shall we? Before we get to that, we're going to talk about the quartz. Actually, I should have switched the order on these. I put them in the order they are in the book. Wow, that picture is messed up. Why is that picture messed up? I don't know, and I'm sorry, everyone. I didn't catch that when I pasted it in. I'll fix it. Okay, actually, we're going to come back to this. We're going to go straight to what you can spend these things on. That's my fault. Okay, I don't like the order in the book, and I should have switched things around. Okay, so you have 2 main functions here: Muster Guard and Summon Loyal Subjects. Muster Guard is for courtiers. Summon Loyal Subjects is for aberrants. Okay. That is an important thing to understand. So, Muster Guard. At the end of your movement phase, each friendly courtier can spend 1 of their Noble Deeds points to return 1 slain model to a friendly serfs unit that is within 10 inches of them, or 2 of their Noble Deeds points to return 1 slain model to a friendly knights unit that is within 10 inches of them. You can use this ability multiple times each turn, as long as the required Noble Deeds points are available. So this is your old model restoration that used to ride on many of the courtiers, right? And it's effectively now you spending those Noble Deeds points. So you're obviously, you only can go to 6, and 6 is where the super ability triggers. So if you're restoring any models, you're cashing these out. And these are only courtiers, many of whom are not spellcasters, nor priests, nor good fighters. So they can be a little tough to get them points. On the bright side, and for reasons I cannot understand, they kept it as within 10 and not wholly within. It's just within 10. Like, I'm not upset about it. It's just, okay. So you only have to toe in the corner of one base of one model, and then you can drop back in the unit as per normal model replacement rules. Yeah, okay. The other ability here is Summon Loyal Subjects. At the end of your movement phase, each friendly aberrant can spend 6 of their Noble Deeds points to summon loyal subjects. If they do so, pick one friendly serfs or knights unit that has been destroyed and add a new replacement unit identical to that unit to your army with half of the models from that unit that was destroyed rounding up. They have to be set up wholly within 6 inches of the edge of the battlefield and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. Each destroyed unit can only be replaced once. Replacement units cannot themselves be replaced. Remaining models which are not set up as part of the replacement unit count as having been slain and can be returned to the replacement unit using the Muster Guard ability or Rally Command ability. So let's make that real. You've got a unit of 6 Morbeg Knights, the little Bat Rider boys, who are awesome.
Yep.
They die, which is also going to happen. And then, because they die very easily. And then you spend your 6 points off an aberrant to call them back. Obviously, they don't need to be anywhere near you. It's just the aberrant just does it because the unit's dead, so they can't be within proximity of anything, right? And they come back in on a battlefield edge, and they would come back in with 3 models if it was a unit of 6 originally. But if there's a courtier there waiting, he can be like, "It's okay, boys, I got you." If he also had 6 Noble Deeds points, he can go pop, 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 and drop back in the other 3. Spend all 6 of his points. Okay? Because they're knights, obviously.
Yes.
Okay. Now, this spending of the thing to recur your army, so working against your buff. Yeah, how'd you find this, Doug? What do you think about this? Do you like this? Do you like this use of the points? All this kind of thing? The tracking of this, the spending of this currency? Where are you living on this?
After having spent some time with it, if there was more ways for the smaller courtiers to accrue them, I would be much higher on it because, like, a lot of them just didn't have a chance to get to 6 to be able to even have a shot at feeding frenzy. Like the smaller heroes, the big guys, of course, do. But I guess my thought is, I feel like courtiers should have that built into their war scroll, but I do like the summoning back things through the aberrant.
Sure. Yeah, recall.
What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like I'm in much the same place. So let me describe what I did wrong in my army. So I built an army.
Okay.
I tried the new Morbeg Knights. I tried Usharan. As I built my army, I didn't include any courtiers. I was like, I don't like any of these guys. They're all dorks. So I just didn't include any of them. Because I did not realize at the time that Muster Guard was limited to courtiers. Like, again, I had read the book once, right? So I had all aberrants. All my people could fight and or cast spells and or multiple spells, right? So what quickly, especially with Usharan and other things we'll talk about in a moment, my entire army was under feeding frenzy like the whole time. Like, it
really
was. Because I just raced to 6, right? And then I just waited until a unit died and just called back half the unit, and I was like, yeah, good enough.
Yeah.
Right? Getting half a unit back is still really good. Like, I didn't need to get it back up to full. My honest answer is I don't like the fact that it can be returned back up to its full potential, honestly. That's kind of a part that I don't enjoy. I understand you got to spend multiple of these resources to do it. But I just, like, when you get back units and they're at half strength for a reason, because we all decided that was kind of the fair and, balanced way to just get extra models, to have units be worth 1.5 times their number of models. And so the fact that I can so easily then bring them back up to full is a problem in my mind. But I don't know that it's like, oh, suddenly the army's bent. I just feel like it's not a very good play experience overall. Things can be not a great play experience without being totally broken. So, but yeah, it was funny because I had no courtiers and no ability to restore models, other than one hero we'll talk about in a moment. I was just like, whatever, feeding frenzy for life, baby, let's go.
That's
So
awesome.
that was my experience.
I went the other way. I had one aberrant and then a whole bunch of the little guys, and no.
Nice. I will state I also primal miscast 3 times in this game, just in case you really want to understand how bad my dice are.
Great work. Just to
One-
call it out. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, things that I think would be really interesting for this if later on they tried for some of the really small one heroes, like, I mean, the courtiers specifically, like, I would love a rule that if one dies, another courtier wholly within 12 gets their noble deeds. Give me some thing that I can do, at least send the idiot to die up front so that his resources can be brought back somewhere else. I kind of dig that,
You want a
but
little Ozolith to collect them points.
Kinda.
I understand. Yeah.
Yes.
Sure. You know.
That's kind of interesting.
Okay, Tyler, what's your take?
I was going to say to call it out since we haven't explicitly said it yet. So replacement units must be set up wholly within 6 at the edge of the battlefield, more than 9. Of course, as Vince was getting at, you can top off units. So his example, get 3 of the Morbag Knights back. Let's say you can top them off to get the other 3. You can add them to that unit to close the distance from the enemy that you started out more than 9 away, right? So this
sure.
army has multiple ways of getting shorter charges with their recursion mechanics and a spell in particular that's really good on the Abhorrent Archregent. So yeah, that's a thing. This is clearly one of the core mechanics that we'll have to keep an eye on and see how it plays out in the aggregate. Yeah, Vince, you may be right. You know, like for that casual, broader ecosystem, this may not be the best play experience. More competitively, it could very well be generally fine. You know, people find a way to deal with it. Vince was emphasizing just a little bit ago that the heroes have some built-in constraints. This army doesn't have ways of getting bonuses to cast. It could struggle to get cast off. There's no ways to get bonuses to prayers other than hope that you're standing by mystical terrain, or maybe you're going the High Priest as your command trait to reroll a prayer. You have heroes that die easily. A lot of armies in this game happen to, of course, be very good at killing heroes. So there's various rate limiters, constraints that are in place.
Yep.
Yeah, that kind of go into all of this. But yeah, it's hard for me to judge it without actually seeing it and seeing how it plays out a little bit more.
Sure.
With yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I was able to recall back half the unit. It was still perfectly valuable, and I was like, yeah, that's good.
Yep.
Like maybe I'll waste a rally on it, maybe I won't, right? But there we are. Okay. With that, let's go back here to this weird page. I'll say there's no 9-inch charges in this army ever. That's number one.
No.
Sure.
No.
All charges are 8 inches base, usually 7 for your good units that are actually doing this. Okay, so like right away we're on good Stormcast charges. That's just number one. And that's because of the Courts of Delusion. Now, in the first battle round, after the players have received their starting command points, but before the start of the first turn, you get to pick a Grand Delusion that the army is operating under. And I could read all of these, but but I don't need to, because what you're going to do is you're going to take Crusading Army in most cases, and in the other cases you're going to take the Feast Day. So there we go. Crusading Army is 1 to run in charge rolls. Fantastic. Feast Day is your Feeding Frenzy. The +1 attacks now triggers on 4 Noble Deeds points instead of 6. Okay. Grand Tournament is like a +1 bonus to hit for heroes that aren't the general if they charge. Terrible. Defenders of the Realm is +1 to save for your units while they're contesting an objective you control. Terrible. Your saves are garbage. Don't throw good money after bad. Yeah. And Royal Hunt is +1 to wound rolls if you target a monster. No, stop. Why? 3 highly constrained bonuses. Okay. Or 2 incredible all the time bonuses. No, Rory. You don't throw good money after bad with +1 to save. That's terrible. I strongly disagree. Like, and moreover, Crypt Guard, I'm not even sure are super duper worth it in most cases. They're worth it maybe for a unit of 1.
+1 ward, I might I might really think about that. But
Yeah,
it
like
saves.
your recursion is such that like so many of your units die so easily. In armies like this, when you try to balance out against something that's weak, you just go from like super weak to average, right? Whereas if you actually invest into what you do great, then you push it into overdrive, right? So like I watch this all the time where I see people invest in like, oh, but this is an area where I'm weak, so I better invest a bunch of my stuff in here. Congratulations, you're now average. And you're going to meet an army that's good and kills you. Because most armies that are tooled up to cut through Stormcast armor or Khorne armor or something like that do not give a crap that your 6-up save is now a 5-up. Okay? They're blowing through you all the same. All right? And then, you know, I will say right now, what I did was take Crusading Army, which is just categorically the most powerful one. Like +1 to run and charge is ridiculous army-wide. This is a game about movement. Movement wins games. It is bar none the most
In a
powerful.
melee army.
In a melee army. It is bar none the most powerful one. Okay? Period. End of story. And then I took Usharon, where you can select a second one of these, and he took Feast Day.
Yep.
Easy.
But these are great because I would love to see them insert new ones that are like playing with Courtier rules. It seems like they're too weak. Like there's nice design space that I like. It's just you're right. With these particular options, there's two.
There is two. If the +1 to wound had been like if they're on the charge, if that had been what it was, like +1 to wound for your army if they charge, I would have been like, oh, okay, that's actually a really interesting bonus. Because I am an army that wants to be charging. Wound is a hard thing to bonus, even in this army. It's highly valuable often. And so, like, okay, I'm listening. But, like, +1 to wound against monsters? Get out of here. It's very common you could, like, again, it doesn't really matter because you don't have to do it in list building.
Yeah. I mean, that's obviously, just it goes without saying that's incredible against certain lists. Like if you rock up against certain lists, that's phenomenal. You're going to take that. But yeah, it's not your generic. But I'm a big fan of this design because it does have that optionality built in. Generally speaking, I think it'd be cool to see more of this, like that the option
the select upon setup. Yeah. That's the nice part about this.
Cool.
If this was at the list building phase, you would just, 99% of lists would just write Crusading Army and call it a day. The nice part is when you do run into Sons of Behemoth or whatever, you can flip over to the Royal Hunt for that weird case and go, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. So we got some real stands for Defenders of the Realm here. I'll tell you what. All right. Cool.
I can see an insert list. Like you got to really build a list into it, and even anyway, we don't have to go into the debate around it.
It's
like
fine.
I hear what you're saying.
Time will tell, my mighty good dogs. Time will tell.
One thing I wanted to point out that's interesting about this is like a lot of times when we think about going to events and how good an army is, it's often described as like if you go to an event and you were to play the same army 3 games in a row, how different are those games? Because it's no fun if it's a one-note army. And what I think is interesting about this book, though, is that you as the person bringing the book are not a one-note army. You can have 3 different game experiences regardless of your opponents, which is kind of a neat idea. I like that quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Rory, that save does nothing to keep your linchpin heroes around. Heroes don't die in this game too. I can't get off this. Heroes don't die in this game to wounds like that. They die to mortal wound bombs going off and killing everything in an area because Croak is Akira. Like that's what they're dying from. Okay, they're dying from orbital strikes that ignore saves. Okay, now, anyways, now you got 2 new heroic actions, one of which is real good and the other of which is not bad. So okay, cool. Rousing Oration, which is your default. You pick a friendly hero and roll a dice for each other friendly unit within, wholly within, I don't remember how many inches it is, 12 inches, because the band is, of course, running right through the number, 12 inches of that hero. Boom, nailed it. For each 5-up, you get a Noble Deeds point. as I said, I rolled this like it was shocking. 4 turns in a row. 4 units, 3 units, 3 units, 4 units. I got 2 noble deeds points. That's not statistically normal.
Sure.
Should have been better than that.
I had one round where I tried to do the exact same thing, and I had like 4 courtiers in a section, and I'm playing them like my bone splitters, which is go ahead, take my savage big boss. I don't care. But of course, this book you should care a lot.
Yeah.
But they were all trying to arousing speech each other.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Everyone's high five, and it just still didn't get anything.
So, anyways, like I was saying, guys, yeah, we all know. We're all on board, man.
Synergy and other teamwork stuff.
Yeah. But it's good. It's good default. Like, if you have no other things you need to be doing, it's the one you should be doing because it's a great way to just boost that up. So
it's kind of interesting as a soft incentive for more units. First list I wrote was a Highlander list. I was just doing a grab bag of everything that I could. So like minimum size beast flayers, 6 knights, 6 flayers, 6 horse, etc. I had like 10 units in the army. Maybe you put a couple off the board, but yeah, it's like okay, set up as a castle or set up as much as I can get away with holier than 12 of somebody with a decent sized base. And yeah, so I thought that was interesting. Yeah, as a way to try to generate some of these things. Yeah.
And I think a lot of these units work small actually well. We'll talk about some of them that I like small and some of them that I like reinforced, but there's plenty of units in this book that do work just small, like just
agreed.
Rocking straight out the gate. And then Scent of Blood, you pick one friendly flesh eater quartz hero and roll a die. On a 3-up, you get a d6 inch move with that hero, but it must finish the move more than 3 inches away from all enemy units and closer to an enemy unit that has any wounds allocated to it. Question number 1 for the FAQ comes right here. Can I use this if no enemies are wounded? I will read the rule again. It must finish the move more than 3 inches from all enemy units and closer to an enemy that has any wounds allocated to it. If there is no enemy with any wounds allocated, then it cannot satisfy that condition.
Right. You have to meet both conditions to do it.
Or if the thing you're fighting is the only wounded model, because you can't move away and move closer.
Yeah. No, you cannot. Period.
Right.
Schrodinger's D6 inches.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So I like that's a fair point, Assistant Ref. That is okay. You've got me on that. He said you could use it, you just can't actually move. That is true. You could declare it, roll the die, get a 3-up, and then fail to move. Yeah. That is true. That is true. That is fair. You got me on that one, buddy. With that. Actually, yeah. No, fair point. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that should still be FAQ'd, but I think legitimately no, you can't. The way I'm reading that, you cannot move if there's no
I wouldn't think so.
Anywhere on the board, which is like actually makes that ability quite bad because you don't have that many ways to wound people at distance or to make people carry their wounds or whatever, and so sometimes just people aren't walking around wounded.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's going to be highly situational. You can try to set it up like you have a unit of flares and you're playing for a double turn, and you've got a Ghoul King on Terrorgeist in combat, and you go, all right, I'm going to ping some wounds on this unit, and then I'm going to use this heroic action to retreat from combat with my Ghoul King on Terrorgeist. I'm going to roll the 4-up, or whatever you need, it's going to be probably a decent number, right, to get outside of 3 inches, and then you're going to be able to charge from that point on with your Ghoul King on Terrorgeist. So there's a number of ifs, ands, or buts within that, but it's highly situational. It could be very interesting, though, under certain conditions.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. Like I said, I started this by saying I think it's pretty good. I just think it's highly situational. I think it's actually like a super powerful effect. It's just highly situational the way I'm reading it with the FAQ. So, so there you go. And then there's 2 monstrous actions. All right, moving on. So,
that's exactly right.
They're both bad. They're both bad. That's it. I wish I could tell you something else, but they are both bad.
I mean, I think you could say Delectable Appetizers is slightly better.
Worse than
Stomp.
Roar. Or worse than
It's worse than
Stomp, sorry.
Roar.
It's worse than Roar. It's worse than Stomp. It's definitely worse than Stomp.
Pick one enemy unit that's wound characters 2 or less within 3. Okay, so yeah, it's triggered on a...
Limited by enemy wounds characteristic. All Stomp, you can't stomp enemy monsters, but you can stomp anything else, right?
Yeah.
And Stomp is on a 2-up. This is on a 3-up. Okay. And what's my amazing payoff for this? I get to heal potentially 1, 2, or 3 wounds. Assuming that they don't actually negate them.
Yeah, I mean, it could be better.
If you're going for a Gristle Gore monsters list, I think it has value because every single way that you can sift for healing is important. But like, that's the only list I can really imagine. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
Doug,
if you've gone for a
do.
Gristlegore monster heavy list, I salute you for your dedication to the narrative, as we would call it when you're playing a very bad list.
Or you're a power gamer who's just really late to the party.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's 2019, right, guys? I went into a coma in June of 2019. I woke up. I'm ready to go.
I do think the Blood Curdling Shriek is compelling under a list that's leaning into the anti-bravery. We haven't mentioned it yet. We'll get into more detail later. This is, if there ever an opportunity for anti-bravery to be a thing in this game, this will be the book for it. So we shall see. There are a lot of ways.
Think that?
This book, anti-bravery?
Yeah. Why do you think that? What's the specific combo that's in your head? Because this is a monster action, right? So why is giving them -2 bravery good? Spell it out for me.
So Ushran can reduce bravery.
Sure.
You have other ways of reducing bravery. I think I was getting up to like -5 bravery. You have ways of turning off Inspiring Presence.
Which are?
A couple of different ways. The Crypt Guard can stop when they do damage. They can turn off the ability of that unit to issue any commands or receive commands, I think is the wording. What else? There's another way to turn off Zombie Dragon. Turn off, is it the Ghoul King on Zombie Dragon can do it as well, or just the Zombie Dragon? I know the Zombie Dragon himself can do it. Can't remember if the Ghoul King can do it. Yeah, that can do it. Potentially Horgast with a list.
Sure.
I'm sure I'm forgetting some things.
Okay. Let's keep those in mind as we go forward. That's fine. I don't think there's actually a list there. I think there's a really good trap there, but I don't think there's actually a list there.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Vince. I haven't actually built a list and looked into can you in fact execute a game plan with reasonable probability, blah blah blah, to get a better sense of it. It's certainly.
And then you go and fight OBR, and you're like, oh yeah, that's right. That's why this is dumb. I forgot. Oh geez. Oh no, now I lose with my list that's completely built to do this one stupid thing that half the armies in the game ignore. Oh. Oops. Oh geez. Oh no, after my OBR loss, now I fight a Sons of Behemoth? Oh no. Okay, well, I guess. That's
my thing with bravery lists is I remember this discussion coming up forever ago with a Night Haunt is like, that's not the fun part of taking models off the board, is the aftermath of like Battle Shock phase for me anyway. Like I want the attacking to be the thing, or the lightning bolt. Not like your Stormcast runs away.
Yeah. All I'm saying is I don't know if in the sweeping history of nearly 9 years of AOS now, right, 8.5 years, we have had the discussion of this is it. Sure. This is the bravery bomb list, man. This is when it all comes together, dog. This is the one.
Emphasis on if. I said if. Yes. I'm not saying it is.
I get it. And so like all I'm saying is I'll believe it when I see it. Maybe it is, but history tells me there's no list there.
That's fair.
Okay. All right.
That's fair.
Okay. Command abilities. Let's get into it. So your command abilities and your artifacts are both split between your aberrants and your courtiers. Okay. So let's just keep that in mind. And then again, we're going to want to hold that in our head as we go forward as to our options when we get into the actual War Scrolls and stuff like that. Okay. So, Aberrant. Shadowy Obfuscation. General's not visible to enemy models that are more than 12 inches away from them. Good. It's a nice way to protect your foot, General. You know, they have Lookout Sir right now, but that doesn't protect them from certain things in the game. This would protect them from more or less everything, except the standard AoE bombs that we talked about earlier, which will still kill them irrelevantly because you don't need to see them when you're just dropping bombs everywhere. Word to your moms, I came to drop bombs. So, you know, it doesn't really... I don't need to see... This is, that's like the bullet with your name on it, whereas a grenade says to whom it may concern. Well, there you go. So, it's fine, though.
I mean, first thought was a big monster. Yeah, Ghoul King on, Terrorgeist or Zombie Dragon.
Sure.
Extra healing, and there's a combo you can do to help it be more durable.
Absolutely. It's fine. It's fine. Again, it's okay. Feverish Scholar. +1 to casting rolls if you have 6 noble deed points, 2 to casting rolls, and dispelling and unbinding and all that. I actually really like this one. You mentioned the lack of bonuses to casting. This is it.
The rare ones,
The ability, I actually really wish they had paid. So let me talk about a thing that happens here a lot when they write these books. Doug, you know the ogre book. You've seen ogres, right? You've seen.
I've heard of them. Yes.
Yes, you've heard of them. Now you know how ogres exist in a sort of state of either hungry or eating, right? And that has a different effect. It's based solely on whether or not they're in combat, right? If they're hungry, they're +2 move because they're ready to get to the enemy, and if they're eating, they're +2 bravery because they're happy and they're eating and they're feeling full and juicy. And my lament with that book was what an incredible idea when that originally came out. And then you look at the rest of the book and you're like, oh, they didn't do anything else with that. They just came up with one cool idea and then stopped. And that never showed up again, right? There's no like, if this unit's hungry, then this additional thing happens. Or if they're eating, then also this bonus, right?
Yeah.
And what I like about Feverish Scholar is they build in these noble deeds points and then said, hey, remember we wrote noble deeds like 5 minutes ago? What if we actually did something with that?
Yep.
Right? And gave you another incentive. So this was what I had on my general, and I really liked it. Because again, I just raised to 6 and I was like, yep, let's do this. And I like +2 casting was a huge deal. Again, I primal miscast twice in a row. I'm really good at magic. But nonetheless, I mean, +2 to cast is like an insanely big bonus. And so I like that there's actually a cross bonus here to stay at 6. Yeah. So yeah, I thought this was cool. And then Master of the Menagerie is like fine if you happen to be using a monster play. It's fine.
No, it is the core. It's how you turn your monsters into like your big hordes of ghouls by just throwing them, and then you can summon them back. Basically, yeah. It lets you restore monsters like you would a Serfs and Knight unit. But like I've said, if you're doing the all dragons thing, you want this. It's so cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Totally agreed. If you're on that tip, this is the one for you. And like, I'm glad it's here. I'm glad it's here.
Agreed.
I really am.
Agreed.
Like, this is the kind of stuff I absolutely want to see in the book. It holds very little appeal to me, but there is a player who saw this and was like, yay! And it made their day, their week, their month, their year. And that means it's worth every bit of the ink to me. Okay?
Yeah.
So, absolutely. Like, write more cool stuff that opens up particular types of lists. I don't. My requirement is not generic power. My requirement is interesting to list building, so that way people can play more lists they want, and this is a good thing for that. Even though I think it's like not actually very strong within the sweep of the book, but who gives a hot poop? Like, it's still good because it does that. All right, so they're fine. They're fine enough. None blow me away, but I like them all. Courtier, stronger in madness. 2 to the general's wounds characteristic. While you have 6 noble deeds points, you have a ward of 5 up. Again, cool. On a Courtier, by the way, 6 noble deeds points, that should have been a ward of 4 up. Let's just do it. Ward of 4 up is not bulletproof, as anybody who plays Yndrasta or people like that will tell you. Okay?
Yeah.
So, like, these guys are already pretty papery. And if they get to this very impressive level, for their sort of status, just let him have it, man. Should have been a 4-up. The Cruel Taskmaster, which is like actually really, really good. You reduce the noble deeds cost of each return model by 1, or if the cost was already 1, you can bring back 1 additional model instead. That is really good. Crazy good. Like 2 serfs for 1 point, or 1 knight for 1 point.
Yep.
So I'm Molodov says, yeah, but you can add 1, so 4+ could be 3+. Okay, cool. You're telling me that, like, I'm worried because the Crypt Honker Courtier is suddenly on a 3-up ward? Like, yeah, okay. As long as he keeps his 6 noble deed points. You earned it, Crypt Honker. Again, there's plenty of things in the game that will just blow that sort of a thing away. So I'm not worried about the Crypt Honker General having a ward of 3-up because he got Crypt Guard near him. You just kill the Crypt Guard. Okay. And then Savage Beyond Reason. Unmodified hit roll, double taps, and if you have 6 noble deed points, it's triple taps. Actually, I like this usage, right? Like making them like using those points. So at any rate, cool stuff. Especially because this is like there's like multiple ways you can play with these noble deed points on courtiers. A unit that's harder to get these on. So what's your take overall here, Doug? We talked a little about Master of the Menagerie, but what do you like over here? Where are you living?
Master Menagerie. I mean, what I'm generally going to take is the Feverish Scholar. I took the shadowy I'm terrible at that word. The invisible one outside of 12 inches,
yes.
And it just
the invisible one, yeah.
Yeah. And that one's obvious. It has a lot of potential. I could definitely see myself taking that on like a ghoul on Terrorgeist, and more just trying to like focus on the edges of the board and flanking. But yeah, I mean, I like the consistency of Feverish Scholar, because you are going to want to be casting as much as possible. You're going to want to go to 6. It's just awesome.
Yep. Absolutely.
As far as the Courtier ones, none of them. The Cruel Taskmaster is amazing. I mean, I plan on doing Hollowmorn, so I have lots of horrors and Morbeg Knights, so that's fantastic.
Sure.
I don't know if I would make him my general for that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think competitively, the Cruel Taskmaster is obviously going to be the initial go, or it seems obviously the initial go-to. I would imagine a lot of lists are going to lean into that initially. We saw, I mean, spoilers, but I mean, hopefully, I think it's relevant to go in a little bit of detail. Season of War, one of their first games that they did, they had an experienced spec player who had just looked at the book, and his first list used Cruel Taskmaster. He brought back approximately 80 wounds onto the table over 4 rounds. It was about 100 wounds after round 5. The last 20 wounds didn't really matter. Now, he very well could have been tabled if Jordan had won a double, I think, in round 2. And because he was going to get into heroes, he was going to have a whole lot. He was going to kill some heroes. And that's going to obviously cut down his capacity to do recursion. But yeah, there will be games where Cruel Taskmaster is going to feel out of bounds. So that's one of the biggest things we'll have to keep an eye on and see how this plays out.
What did he use as his general? Who was his general? The Herald?
I can't remember if it was the Herald or the Crypt Infernal Courtier. Yeah, I can't remember, man.
Okay.
I think the Herald will be a common choice because, as we'll get into, the Herald cannot be targeted, I believe is the language, if he's within 6 inches of a friendly unit. Okay. So, yeah, I think that will be a popular direction for your general with Cruel Taskmaster. And the Herald's really interesting in general. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's like I agree with you. The Cruel Taskmaster is really, really good. Probably too good. Straight doubling is always very powerful, which is what this effectively does, right? This is a straight doubling of your recursion capabilities off of that guy, off of that one person, right? Yep, there you go. Jake used Marrow Scroll Herald as general. There you go.
Okay. Yeah.
Like he's the obvious combo piece with it, right?
Yeah.
Because he's running around invisible. And can just like he's small, it's power per square inch. He can burrow easily into units or be around. He can like there's just Yep.
he can be impacted by AoE damage. You can try to
Sure.
mitigate that a little bit with crypt guards surrounding him, putting him on. Yeah. Um, yeah. Anyway, that's not going to help out a whole
Mhm.
lot, but yeah. So,
Okay. Let's talk. I agree. Cruel Taskmaster is the one that feels a bit out of bounds to me. It's also weird that the best, like, that is certainly the best command ability on this list. And for my
Yes.
money, it is a little weird that you are incentivized to make a courtier your general if you're just
Right?
playing to power, right? Like, shouldn't the
sure.
aberrants be? Aren't they the kings or and dukes and stuff like that? Aren't they the ones in charge?
Right.
So yeah, that's a bit weird. Okay.
Mm.
Artifacts, artifacts.
Yes.
Abhorrent. Again, split up. Grim Garland, -2 bravery from enemy units while they're within 9. Oh, good, more of that. Blood River Chalice, once per battle. At least that one works all the time. I don't have to like roll a 3 up to make it happen.
Yep.
On my overpriced, not very effective monster. Blood River Chalice, once per battle in the hero phase, you can heal 2d3 wounds. Okay. At least it's not a dice roll to make it happen, so I guess that's something. It just does, which is cool.
Yeah.
And then Heart of the Gargant. Heart of the Cards, Yug. Once
Mhm.
per battle at the start of the combat phase, the bearer can use this artifact. If they do so, add 1 to the attack characteristic of melee weapons used by the bearer and to their mount in that phase. So obviously a pretty hot pick if you're going to be Mr. Ghoul King on Terrorgeist kind of guy. If you're that kind of
Hmm.
guy, if that's your jam. Then we've got
Yeah.
the Courtier ones. Medal of Madness. Once per battle round, the bearer can issue a command without a command point being spent. They're treated as the general when they do so, which is cool. Flayed Pennant. You can reroll charge rolls for friendly Flesh Eater Courts units while they're wholly within 12, which doesn't sound amazing, but it is very amazing in this army where you're often charging on 7s. A pretty good sized bubble of free rerolls is actually quite
Hmm.
potent. And then Charnel Vestments, the bearer gains the priest keyword. Not bad at all, given what we talked about at the beginning and the need to accrue these magic noble deeds points. Opening up the priest does give you at least a through line on gaining 1, which is something. So
Yep. Doug, any of these stand out to you?
The flayed pennant is my absolute favorite. So when I did my
Yeah.
game, I started with what I think a Flesh Eater Court list should be. So of course I had the Aberrant as the general, so I bypassed Cruel Taskmaster entirely. Um, but for the Courtier, I was like, oh my god, flayed pennant. And although I whiffed all my rolls when it came to like the arousing oration kind of stuff,
Mm.
when you have, I had it on a Courtier, I believe, the Haunter one, the Crypt Horror version, whatever he is.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I used him as like I ran him to the center, and everything else did a huge kind of run and charge bubble out from it. And I
Mm.
used him to slingshot units forward pretty aggressively, and it's just awesome. He's just a
Nice.
little beacon of chaos, and
Yeah.
that's just in addition to everything he wants to do on his own. So
nice. I
Very
dig it.
cool.
I dig it. Tyler,
So,
what about your pick?
uh, per usual, I like Grim Garland as a potential element in a toolbox. I'm not looking to nuke the
mhm.
world with anti-bravery, but I wouldn't mind potentially having it as a tool when relevant. The Was that diplomatic enough? Metal Madness. Once per battle round, the bearer can issue a command. That seems terrible on surface, at least to me. It seemed terrible on surface. Then I was thinking about, for example, the Gore Warden, who, in order to make Morbeg Knight's battle line, has to be, well, let's see. If you want to, yeah, in order to make Morbeg Knight's battle line, he has to be the general. If you want to have the optionality with him, for example, to put a unit off the board, either Crypt Flayers or Morbeg Knights with him, he's going to be off the battlefield. So to have a way of being able to generate command points, right, having a general on the battlefield through Metal Madness, that's kind of interesting in certain lists. So, and then yeah, Charnel Vestments, definitely. I think that's going to pop up a lot. And yeah,
Yeah.
obviously Flayed Pennant's really good.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
decent list.
decent list here. I don't nothing that's incredibly crazy, but also some decent options. I don't even hate the Blood River Chalice. I know it's once per game, but 2d3 is a decent amount of healing. You can kind of spike there, especially on a bunch of heroes that already heal a d3 on their own. So suddenly going 3d3 means if you're down at low wounds, you're just now full again, more or less. So It's cool.
Really nice. It's in the hero phase, right, man?
It is absolutely very nice. Like, say you primal miscast 3 times in a game and can just keep using all of these things to heal your dude back up so he doesn't die. Let's just take that crazy example, okay? Spells.
Yes.
Now they printed 3, which was strange because when I read these the first time, number 1 and number 3 read to me like ipsum lorem text, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized it's because my brain refuses to learn bad spells. And then there's deranged transformation, which is actually incredible. So that's it. Miasmal Shroud is a silly dice game where you pick a unit that's visible and you roll 6 dice, and then you're trying to see how many of those dice share the same value. Okay. Your chances of this are not exceptional. Like, I don't want to get into the statistics of your chances to have 4 dice share the same value on D6s, but it's not high. Okay. It's not an incredibly high number.
Yeah.
All right. In fact, 3 dice sharing the same value on 6 is also not very high. 2 dice is decently likely. So what this spell most often does is 1 mortal wound. That is the modal outcome of this spell.
Yeah, I've heard some folks comment on the fact that we have a different wording here on the bonus. If the casting roll is 10 or more, a lot of these historically have been unmodified rolls. So like Soul Blight, it's unmodified rolls for the benefit, right? So yeah, with Primal Dice, with maybe that way of getting +1 to cast or +2 to cast, the command trait, you can get up there at an 8, but it's still bad. This is the
It is still bad. Even with 8 dice, your odds do not shoot up that high. Yes.
No, I read that once and I was like, if I wanted to play Warcry, I would just go play Warcry and fish for doubles and triples there.
Exactly. Yeah. So that spell's bad. Crimson Victuals. Victuals? I don't know. I know that word. I just do not know how to pronounce it. I've read it in like a bunch of old-timey English books because they love that word, victuals, but I have no idea how to say it. At any rate, whatever this spell is called, it's bad. It has a casting value of 6 and a range of 18. If successfully cast, you get to pick an enemy unit within range of the caster and a friendly Fresh Eater Quartz unit that has a wounds characteristic of 1 and is within 6 inches of that unit. Okay?
Yeah.
The enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Then, for every one that was actually resolved, i.e. not negated, right? You get to return a slain model to the 1 wound unit. Okay. That is a lot of work to get a ghoul. Or whatever.
My brain went to like when they show those stupid CG things like in crime documentaries about triangulating cell phone reception.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what are we doing?
What are we doing here? These are both bad. They're very bad. These are bad spells. You shouldn't cast them. They're bad. I don't know how else
Well,
to
and
say
then they
it.
made all the spells on the actual casters amazing. And
That's right.
they're like, well, why even have a lore?
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
Seemingly, yeah, because that's where the
we need
spell
to go
lore
back
lies.
to not having spell lores. We like originally in AOS we didn't have spell lores. We just had spells on the thing, right? Like there was no concept of picking spells. And then they eventually introduced a spell lore for like some dumb magic book, and then everybody got them. Yep. Right? And then we had like tons of spells. You know, we have like books with like 12, 18 spells, and there's and spread over various spell lores and stuff. Now we're down to these guys. They got 3. Hopefully we're on the trajectory back to AOS 4. No spell lores. Throw them in the bin.
Yep.
Just back on it. Let's get just spells on the Warscroll. Call it a day. I'm good with it. Okay. And then Deranged Transformation, which is ridiculously good for absolutely no reason. It's too good. It's amazing. I'm not actually angry at it. It's great. Value of 6, range 24 inches. You get to pick up 1 friendly unit. Wounds characteristic of 7 or less, which is perfectly fine and generous for everything you're going to want to throw this on. Until your next hero phase, add 2 to that unit's move characteristic and 1 to wound rolls. Hachi Machi, here we go. And if you nail that casting roll of 10 or more, including with bonuses, you get three different units within this massive buff range. To get this incredible bonus of +2 move and +1 to wound. So, yeah.
A lot of the army is wounding on 3s, so yeah, wounding on 2s.
It's the kind of spell that, like, every aberrant in my list is going to have this, because even if it's redundant, it's more valuable than the other ones of, like, stopping the game to play a mini game or something.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Hold on, I gotta play Yahtzee real quick.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a thing, and I'm not gonna bother explaining what it means to you because it would take too long. So I'm just gonna be over here rolling 6 dice. I'll come back to you.
Yeah, exactly. Just trust me, this might mean something. I love this spell. It's incredible. You mentioned a lot of the wound to 3-up. I actually, and that is true. But in the game I played, I had a big unit of whatever. What did I have? 40 ghouls. Yeah, I had a big unit of 40 ghouls.
Yeah.
And I got this spell off on them, and then charged them in with a nice little all-out attack. And they were under the effect of Feeding Frenzy because my hero was near them with the Noble Deeds points, and they proceeded to rip and tear my dog. Just killed everything. Because turns out those little lunatics go real wild with +1 attack, +1 to hit, and +1 to wound. Turns out.
And auto wounding on 5s and 6s with 20 more models.
Correct.
Right?
Auto wounding on 5s. And with the rend because they had the trigger for that on too. So, yep.
They're looking tasty. We'll get to them.
I'm a fan of ghouls. Just give me them ghouls. As people might know, I did a speed paint FEC army, and so I have 80, ghouls or something like that, right? So I'm prepared. I'm ready for ghouls.
Good starting number.
Exactly. I got a good base to work from.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk prayers.
Very excited for this.
Sure. I mean, these are better. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. Yes.
That is a low bar, so we haven't told people who are watching much because those spells are so bad. It's amazing to have 1 10 and 2 1s. That is really like a heck of a spread on quality. At any rate, prayers. Bless this meal. Answer value of 3 in a range of 18. You get to pick 1 enemy unit within range. Each time a model from that enemy unit is slain, you can heal 1 wound allocated to 1 friendly fleshy or quartz unit within 6 inches of that enemy unit. Okay. That's fine.
I love it.
Yeah, it's very flavorful.
I mean,
very useful.
It has a better rule name than 2 of the other spells in the spell lore.
1000%, yes. And very useful depending on what you're swinging around with, right?
Oh yeah,
you have
absolutely.
the higher wound things, the big heroes. You got an Usharon going into the unit. You got a big Ghoul King on Terrorgeist or whatever.
Yeah, any of the monsters.
Yeah. I mean, this stuff is like that's such an amazing thing to just get them in there and they just like bing 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 bing. Right.
Yeah. You do not have to heal the unit that's doing the damage. You can heal something else that's within 6 inches of that enemy unit, which is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Like, good spell. Like, I will say it is a bit, or good prayer. It is a bit situational in your list. It's not universally great. If you are running like a ghoul or low wound heavy list, obviously this isn't doing much because it's not returning models. So it does matter some what your list consists of, right?
Sure.
But that's not a slight against it. Good. I'm glad certain prayers or things align better with certain lists. Again, this is a strength, not a negative. It is just a thing that should be stated.
Yep.
Okay. Summer King's Favor. Answer value 3 in range of 18. Pick 1 friendly Flesh Eater Quartz hero, wholly within range, invisible to the Chanter. Until your next hero phase, that hero gains 1 additional Noble Deeds point each time they slay an enemy model. Yep. So, good, interesting way to, give somebody a bonus if they can fight and they can actually kill something. Then they can get 2 points out of it instead of 1 point out of it, or something like that, depending on what they're fighting. Because normally it's unresolved wounds. This is actually slay, so it's not a direct doubling, depending on what's being fought, right? So,
Yeah, I doubt it's going to be, a favorite. Like if you have lots of prayer slots, lots of prayers, then yeah, you might do this. But there's a number of other better options.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
Nicole pointed out something here
yeah,
that
the bless this meal has no end condition. Yeah.
yeah,
Anytime I see something like that, I just assume that's going to be FAQ'd. You're right, though. I should have mentioned it. That's another FAQ.
Yeah.
Does this effect ever actually end?
Sure.
Historically, they have always FAQ'd things like this to end. There is one exception, which we will talk about here in this book, that I do believe is intentionally never ending.
Right.
And that's very clear from the way it's written. This is not. But hey, who knows? Could be. And then Charnel Conviction. Again, answer value 3, range of 18. Pick one friendly Flesh Eater Quartz unit wholly within range and visible to the Chanter. That unit has a ward of 5 up until your next hero phase. The glorious 5 up ward. The most important spell you cast in the previous book and now a prayer. Here we go. Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
do I need to explain why a 5 up ward is good? I don't think so.
yep.
I think we're all on the page. Yeah, here I'm 3 for 3, right? Like we all in for that?
I like them.
Yeah.
Everything has a use. Maybe not for every list, but that's cool.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I completely agreed. Which is, frankly, what I want to see. 3 useful things that are useful to different lists. I guess one of them here is generically powerful, which is the 5 up ward. Okay. Mount traits, which are only for hero-mounted monsters.
Yeah.
I thought that was very strange. I made a note of it because I don't get it. Like, why? Why?
No, I was actually starting to write a story about a vampire who had like a pet dragon, but I was like, oh.
Yeah. Like, why if I happen to take a bunch, like if I am in Gristlegore and have a bunch of monsters, why am I not allowed to give one of my regular monsters a mount trait? I don't know. That's very strange. But anyways, fine, whatever. Zombie Dragon has +1 rend for their pestilential breath. That's bad. They have death from the skies, which lets them ambush, which is decent enough. Keeps the thing off the battlefield, which is cool. Again, you can be in your, like that says 9 inches away from enemy units, but that's an 8-inch charge at base. It could be much higher for reason, or much lower for reasons we'll talk about here in a little while. But if you're in +1 to run and charge, so that's quite good. And then Venerated Zombie Dragon +1 to hit rolls for other monsters while they're wholly within 12 of this unit, which is fun. Again, for the Gristlegore monster mash list. I'm glad that every time we look at this stuff, there is like the one option that's very clearly for the Gristlegore monster mash list.
Yes,
and
yes.
It's like, don't worry. You're good.
We got you.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's fine. And then Terrorgeist, 1 to the attack's characteristic of its Fanged Maw. Good, because the Fanged Maw does a lot of heavy lifting. For those of you who know how the Terrorgeist works, the more attacks you can get out of that thing, the better. More chance for it to just destroy things. I'm about to ruin this man's whole career. Horribly resilient. This unit's Royal Blood ability heals 2d3. That's fine enough. And then more beg swiftness, retreat, and still charge, which is always good. Like retreat and charge is a powerful rule. So I don't really hate any of these except the pestilential breath bump. I just don't think that actually matters any.
No.
Like again, don't throw good money after bad, and that ranged attack just isn't really worth it that much. It's okay.
I was gonna say, if it was a really quality attack and you were like ticking up higher, I'd
if it was like +1 rend and +1 damage, okay, maybe it'll get somewhere. But yeah. Doug, Tyler, any thoughts on this one? All
Nope.
fine enough.
No, I it's just a good mix. Yeah, I can't think of anything else I would have added, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty solid.
Yeah, I just wish they weren't limited to only the hero ones, which just makes me sad. Because it would be fun to, take a list and have them be, and, get up some bonus enhancement and give one to my little boys, too. Like, yeah, okay, I give one to my guy, but then I want to give one to my little boys that are with me, right? But I can't. Such a shame. Okay, cool. Let's talk Grand Courts, shall we?
Yes.
Before we get into the rules, do you all have a favorite? Doug, who you reppin' of the 4 sub-factions here? What Grand Court are you joining?
Alamorn.
Hollowmorn, all right.
Yes.
Tyler, what are you joining?
Oh, I mean, that's going to be the go-to out of the gate. But I do think they're all interesting. I like Morgaunt. I think Morgaunt's kind of interesting.
But you're saying you want to join Hollowmorn, but you're going to go more.
But
you're going to pick the hipster pick.
Hipster pick is Morgaunt, but it's Hellamorn.
Got it. Yes, it is Hollowmorn. That is correct. That is the objectively correct answer, unfortunately, because it freaking rules. But that being said, I agree with you that Morgaunt is the hipster choice. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. Morgaunt. Give 1 noble deeds point to each friendly. I should have added the note here about what they make battle line. I'm sorry. I did add it in the Warscrolls, but I didn't add it here.
Crypt Guard.
Yeah, Morgaunt makes Crypt Guard battle line. Thank you. And give 1 noble deeds point to each friendly Morgaunt Fleshier Quartz hero at the end of the turn if that hero is contesting an objective. Okay. Cool. Yeah, not bad. We talked about some of the challenge of building noble deeds points. So being able to get 1 at the end of, each turn it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Okay.
Yeah.
Hollowmorn is +1 to damage
mission.
characteristic of melee weapons used by knights. This thing rules. I want to tell you a story now. Okay? Here is my story. I had a unit of 3 Cryptonkers, or Horrors as they're more commonly known. They are knights. I was in Hollowmorn for my test game. I charged a Zenestra. I managed to get these 3 into Zenestra. Yeah? The very annoying lady on the little thing. Yeah?
Tom's favorite, the wheel lady.
Yes, the wheel lady, the psychopathic priest. That's right. At any rate, on the way in, 2 of them died to an unleash. Okay? So now there is 1 Crypt Honker champion fighting Zenestra. All right? And you know what? He got there. She was unwounded, and he killed her. And I was like, you go, buddy. I'm forever on the side. And it's because of the potential damage 4 attacks that come off of these guys. Right?
Oh,
and
yes.
that was what happened. I rolled slightly well. In this case, got a couple 4 damage attacks through. He rolled poorly on his wards. Dead. That was it. So,
Yep.
4 damage is big attacks out of a 140 point unit or whatever. It turns out. So, pretty good. I'm a Crypt Honker fan. So yeah, Hollowmorn, very good. +1 to damage, very good. Hey, guess what? It's AOS. It's still AOS. In year 1, +1 to damage was pretty good. In year 2, +1 to damage was pretty good. We keep learning this lesson over and over and over again. And yet, here we are. Blisterskin, friendly Abhorrence gain the priest keyword, but they cannot cast spells and chant prayers on the same hero phase. Is a cool way, again, to make sure that you've got effectively some angle on noble deeds. You can get into smite and curse and heal and other things like that. They're just whatever, I'm just casting. Let's do this. Let's go.
But why not make it courtiers? Why not have them be the lower caste of priest and give them a whole new way to accrue noble deeds?
Yeah.
Now you have to choose between spells of your awesome spell in your war scroll and your 1 of 3 spells versus prayer. I don't know. I feel what a great opportunity to bring them in.
I agree.
Right.
It's why Blisterskin isn't as good. If it turns your courtiers into priests as well, I would be so much higher on this one. So much higher.
Yep.
And I agree with you. Did we learn nothing from pre-revolution France? The first estate is the nobility. The second estate is the clergy, the courtiers. The third estate is the peasants, right? How are we not come on, people? This is just history. Okay, I don't understand here. We've gone, we've fallen from grace. That's all I'm saying. Okay. We've turned away from God's light. That's all I can say. At any rate, I agree. It's unfortunate. That being said, it's generally easier to chant a prayer than it is to cast a spell because you don't have to worry about unbinding and all that kind of stuff. So it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, Gristlegore. Oh, sorry. Blister Skin also makes Crypt Flayers battle line.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And then Gristlegore. At the start of your combat phase, you can pick one friendly Gristlegore monster on the battlefield. The strike first effect applies to that monster until the end of that phase. It's a cool effect. And because obviously it can be your hero guy, your Kumquat, your Ghoul King on Terrorgeist. And Gristlegore turns your unmounted Royal Terrorgeists and Zombie Dragons into battle line. So they'll lose the Behemoth and gain battle line, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's lists you could write that really leans into this. The always strike first or giving your opponent always strike last. Usharan, I've seen some lists with Manfred as an ally, for example, which, actually, as I say that, Manfred wouldn't even fit as an ally. Maybe then there's not Coalition. When did I see a list with Manfred? He wouldn't even fit, would he? I think he's more than 400 points.
I don't remember
Anyway,
anymore.
Yeah, 400 on the nose, it looks like.
Oh,
yeah.
There you go. He snuck in.
So, yeah, Manfred has a way. Whenever he charges, he fights first. So, yeah, you could potentially do some chained fight first shenanigans with a Gristlegore list, depending on your units of choice.
Yep. Dig it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That brings us to the end of the allegiance abilities. So now we're going to pause the rules review. And we're going to go to story time with Doug.
Yay!
Doug, tell us about the story in this book. What happens in here? Because I'm not going to lie, I didn't read the story. I didn't have time. So
yeah, absolutely. So we get sort of a retelling of the original Flesh Eater Court story, which now we know is just one perspective. So that is essentially, there is this character named Usharan, who is one of the Mortarchs of Nagash, brought over from the old world. And I don't know much about the old world lore. I know it's a character from there. Didn't even bother going back and looking because most of the books aren't in print. But he's brought into this new world and he's given a kingdom just like Manfred and Neferata are, a little slice of Shyish to get going. And his job is to make vampires. It's the whole point.
Little starter kingdom for him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's the sort of King Leopold I of the Shyish. Yeah, absolutely.
He got a Minecraft seed, and he, according to the various stories, because now we're talking about conflicting accounts, he was either the most handsome, dashing man in the entire world or the most feral, nasty creature from the get-go. But he was, generally speaking, all about Nagash. Super happy guy. He gets a mission to go out to the Realm's Edge, which is like a very concentrated magic, and goes out there. And when he comes back, he's completely insane. Like something happened that either the real history or the Flesh Eater Court's perspective, the only point that they converge on is that this dude went to the Realm's Edge and something broke him.
Gotcha.
So he comes back, and Nagash in the Flesh Eater Court story wants to heal and restore him. So he puts him inside like a med bay, which we know is the Shroud Cage. It's the prison that Sigmar smashed over as he was going to punch Nagash in the face and the Age of Chaos started. So that's when the Flesh Eater Courts really begin, is Usharan goes crazy and then is locked away. The prison breaks open, he's free, and the vampires that he creates now have the madness that he has built inside of them. He went into hiding for a bunch of time because he thought Nagash wanted to kill him, and his brain had to kind of coalesce a little bit. And now that he has made his return, he came back because Nagash was struck down by Teclis, so he feels safer. And the subplot that was added to the book that I think is incredible is that we actually learn Neferata has been like stealing vials of his blood when he gets like, he goes into a fugue state when he eats, I guess. I don't know. But she's been drawing some of his blood with spies and stuff like that, and then sending it out to the various cities of Sigmar and basically branding it as fine wine. And no one can tell the difference because the second it touches your lips, it becomes fine wine because your perspective changes. You're infected with the
Sure.
madness. And so it's causing destabilization across cities just by poisoning all of them. And so it's written about in the past tense in the Battletome, but I think it'll be in the next story arc book. This is my prediction, by the way.
Yeah, it was in. They made mention of it in. Callus and Toll uncovered it in the Long Hunt. I believe it was them who uncovered it.
But I think the next story is going to feature a crusade specifically, where Usharan is pulling all these mad people from the cities together.
Nice.
That's what I think.
Wow.
Anyway, so that's the kind of the state of the faction, is that he has returned and he's trying to kind of restructure his kingdom. The reason all Flesh Eater courts generally look the same, with like a king, someone in charge, knights, ghouls, whatever, is because they're all based on his mad vision of a court.
Gotcha.
And so he's coming back and trying to reestablish that authority structure. Marrow Scroll heralds kind of act as diplomats. And so he's kind of reasserted himself as the king of the faction, the Mortarch of Delusion. And beyond that, he's kind of just here for a good time. Everyone else is kind of using him as a pawn, but Usharan's kind of like the orcs. He's having a blast.
Gotcha. All right. Very nice. Very nice. I love how we got that. What a wonderful and excellently summarized wrap up. Very cool. Okay, and I agree with you. It's what I want to see is over time, how do they use FEC? How do they manifest in the next book? Let's be honest, that's what we're really excited for with the next Long Hunt. So we'll see. Yep. Or sorry, next Dawnbringers. We'll see how that works. All right. With that, then let us go to the Warscrolls.
I will be right back.
You be right back. After these messages, we'll be right back. So, not really. We don't have commercials. Okay, here we go. Warscrolls. Let's start with the big guy. The big man himself, Usharan. I still don't like this model, and I'm not sorry. But he's pretty good rules-wise. 16 wounds, 4 up save, 10-inch move, 10 bravery. 460 points. He's got his big scepter that's Ren 2, that's D3 plus 3 damage. You love to see it.
Yep.
And he's got his monstrous claws and fangs, which he's got 10 attacks that then scales down on 3s, minus 1, 2. Epicenter of Delusion. He gets to pick the Delusion and broadcast that out over this big old radius, which is really nice. He is a War Master. He's a double caster wizard. When he has 6 Noble Deeds points, everybody is affected by Feeding Frenzy while they're wholly within 24 of him instead of 12. It should be noted that if he chooses for his Epicenter, then you can pick one delusion from the court's delusion battle trait until your next hero phase. That delusion applies to friendly Flesh Eater courts units while they're wholly within the Epicenter of Delusion range. If you pick the thing that is the Feeding Frenzy Enhancer, my read on that is that, because it says specifically while they're within 12, right?
Okay, yeah, I get it.
My read on that is that his rule would overwrite the 12-inch limitation, and that Feeding Frenzy, if it triggers on 6, if it triggers on 4, would then broadcast out to the 30-inch range. But again, there's like 3 different numbers going on here.
Yeah, that one is weird.
So, but hey, I'm not totally sure on that. There's FAQ questions in this. Anyways, that's what it does. That's how I read it, that if you put the two of those things together, that's what occurs. Because the Epicenter of Delusion range will overwrite the 12-inch limitation of Feast Day and then make it so that occurs. But I don't know. Shroud Cage Fragment. At the start of the combat phase, subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of each enemy unit within 3 inches of this unit until the end of the battle. So clearly meant to stack. It has a time limiter on it that is stated, and it's meant to be forever, because he is clearly this, center of insanity that just grinds everyone down. Then you roll 2d6. For each enemy unit within 1 inch of this unit, if the result is higher than the bravery, they strike last effect applies to that unit. Very cool rule. Love how effective, like, eventually he's just fighting first. That's it.
Yep.
He only has a 4-up base save, but he does have a 5-up ward. He heals 2d3 wounds in your hero phase, which is cool. And then he has a fun spell called Glimpse of Delusion. That's value of 7 and a range of 18. He gets to pick an enemy model invisible to the caster, and then pick a melee weapon that enemy model is armed with, and one other enemy within range of that weapon, and then make them immediately make combat attacks against that thing. That's fun.
If you
Classic
pay
effect.
400 something points for him and you don't use that ability just for the sake of playing Warhammer, I think you're missing the point of the game. It's so fun to make someone slap their own guys.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
Yeah. And there are certainly some juicy targets for this, depending on the kinds of things you're fighting. You know, if there's, like, people love to
Annihilators.
have heroes next to, well, I mean, people love to have heroes next to other units, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, some heroes have pretty good melee profiles, so just turn them loose on the unit and watch them kill a bunch of their own people. It's great. How big is his base? I believe he's 130 millimeter round.
I think so.
believe. I mean, like, I don't have that model, so I can't say.
No, I don't know.
But I believe that's what he's on. So overall, yeah, pretty great. I think 460 feels pretty exactly correct. I mean, this is where we get the first instance of this. You know, he's one of your best heavy hitters, and here still he's only Rend 2. This army does have a Rend problem. It's going to be hard pressed to crack mortal wounds. To crack heavy armor. Sorry, because it lacks the mortal wound punch. Yeah.
Yep.
Tyler, your read on Ushram?
Curse the army. I think you're going to see a lot of lists with curse. Big fan. Yeah, they nailed this one. I mean, it's not absolutely perfect, but it's a good approximation. This is one of the better 460 point, centerpiece, unique characters that we may have ever gotten. I agree with you. I think 460 is about spot on. He does a lot. I think you're going to see him a fair amount. He's not an auto take, which is nice.
I was actually going to ask that if you thought he was an auto take. I was like, I don't think so.
No, which is really good. Yeah. The healing is good. Open question about Crypt Guard. I don't know, Vince, if you know this offhand, whether they're going to be eligible in terms of the positioning to be able to give him a 4-up ward a la Crypt Guard. That was unclear in my mind.
I believe if he's on 130 mil, I believe he would
you could
just fit within. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because he's got to be wholly within 3, I believe, of Crypt Guard to qualify. So you'd have to do some funky wrapping and
horseshoe maneuver.
The unit's going to have to be able
Yes.
to wrap, but yes, I think he can do it.
Yeah,
Serpentine pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quick, everyone, stand slightly adjacent to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, long and short of it, I'm a big fan of this guy.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I do think he'll end up being able to get the ward. I think 460 points feels pretty correct. He's certainly a power center. He certainly has an effect on the way the army plays, both in utility, and he has decent offense and defense. He's like a nice mix of what you want to see out of a 400 to 500 point centerpiece model. Like, legitimately, this is where things should be for that range of models. Take note, Greater Demons. This is how you get to this level. This is how you. This is what peak performance looks like. You know, Tyler, I want to do a whole show on this sometime. I have a sort of, I don't think I've ever talked about this on a show, but I have a tiering system in my mind of all heroes, like a tiering of heroes, and how where they how much points that is, and then what that should equate to in the game. And for the basically it's a 5-tier system. At the low end is like your standard utility, normal people running around, right? And at the high end is gods. That's tier 1 and tier 5.
Yep.
And tier 4 is like I'll colloquially call it, should be the greater demon tier, but it's like the big bruisers of the faction, the leaders of an entire faction or something like that, right? So
would you put Celestin Prime there? That kind of character?
No.
Yeah.
Damn well should, Doug. Great repping, Doug. Good work, my friend. I didn't even have to pay you to say that. God,
Amazing. No, he belongs in like tier 3, right? Which is like your BA sort of like named special characters, but they're
Or
not like
badass. I'm just kidding.
yes, correct. But not the super duper people,
Mhm.
right? And one of my big problems in the game right now is when people fall outside of the sort of mental tiering system, and like my point being like greater demons are just like little children comparatively. They're jokes.
Agreed.
They're down below that, and
Yep.
it's an issue. Keeper of Secrets change win. They're garbage. Okay, here we go. So, Abhorrent Ghoul King on Royal Terrorgeist. 16 wounds, 4 up save. It's the Abhorrent Ghoul King on Royal Terrorgeist. You know him. You love him. What's different? His gory talons and fangs are now, it's just his scratchies are now damage 2.
Thank goodness.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
What was it before D3?
It's just one. It's just one.
Just
Oh.
one.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like we could have given him 5 attacks, but fine. 4 attacks. Sure.
Sure.
Minor
It's fine.
quibble.
I mean, again, we should also comment on his spell, since his spell in the previous thing was obviously the 5 up word, and now it's different. So it's a spell that has a casting value of 6 and a range of 12. Successfully cast, pick one friendly. Royal Terrorgeist, wholly within range. You can reroll hit rolls for attacks made with that unit's Fanged Maw until your next hero phase. I do love that this is just like we're partying like it's 2018 all over again.
Yep.
Okay. Didn't we
Big fan of-
stop?
Big fan of rerolls. That's what I'm
Didn't we
hearing.
stop doing rerolls? I thought we quit this. Okay. That's number 1. Number 2, didn't we stop doing rerolls that were just for fishing? Like that's the only point of the spell? Because again, this is one of those things where like a normal person who sort of doesn't know the game very well is going to go, "Oh, neat, I can reroll," and they'll roll to attack, and the Fanged Maw hits on a 4. Let's just imagine they haven't used all out attack or something for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so they'll roll their 3 dice, and they'll hit with 2 of them. They roll a 4 and a 5 and a 1. And they're like, yay, I can reroll that 1. And then they reroll the 1 and maybe it hits or maybe it doesn't, right? And they're happy with their life because they got their reroll. And then the big brain player is going to roll that same roll and get a 1, a 4, and a 5 and immediately pick up all 3 dice and reroll them. Because hits are irrelevant, baby. Only 6s matter. Okay? When you're going for the maw, only 6s matter, dog. That's it. And nothing else matters. That's right. Tell me about it, James. So, yeah. But whatever. It's fine. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's a spell you will cast. It's going to start or continue whatever the tradition of all of the spells or most of the spells on the Warscrolls are pretty good and you just want to cast them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So this guy, yeah, I don't think he's going to be a popular pick. He'll make some lists. He doesn't strike me as not even remotely an auto include. I wonder if over time he'll creep into more list. The damage output leaves a little bit to be desired. I think maybe a lot to be desired. You can do some builds where you can have pretty good healing on this guy. 16 wounds, bump up is nice. I think it previously 14 wounds. You're still on 4 up saves, so that could be tough. He's healing in your hero phase, D3 wounds. Yeah, you've got a couple of different ways to do additional healing. We've covered a couple of different ways that you could lean into that. So that's interesting. What do you think about this guy, Vince? Like the prayer, bless the feast, for example, horribly resilient, and then there was an artifact that does 2d3 heal.
Yeah.
So
I think if you're going to build with this guy in your list, you're going to take the obvious stuff. You're going to take the +1 once a game, you get the +1 attacks. You're going to take the mount trait to give you the +1 Fanged Maw all the time attack. You're going to try to run this guy up to 6, so he's the epicenter of Feeding Frenzy. You're like you might actually just select Feast Day straight out, so you can get to like 6 Fanged Maw attacks once a game, right, and 5 the rest of the time. And you're going to go in. You're going to try to cast your spell, and when you get your spell off, you're going to go in and try to just ruin someone's entire career. To make that joke again, right? Because you're going to roll all 6 dice and everything that's not a 6, you're going to re-roll it immediately and fish for 6s. You got 2 bites at the apple to do like 24 mortal wounds. And if you've ever been on the receiving end, which was a very real thing of 18 or 24 mortal wounds from an abhorrent Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, you know that there's very little that survives that, right? And so I do think it's a strat. I think it's putting a lot of effort into a piece that is on a 4-up, 6-up, right? So maybe you'll take the thing that makes you like invisi from more than 12 inches away instead to guard against that some. I don't know. But like there's something around that build. I think it's possible. I don't know if it's super great. That's my answer.
See, my thought is with the Terror guy specifically is I like him because I don't have to do much for him. So like I like the idea of saying like what are my 2 to 3 like real threats that I can pose to my opponent. I like being able to be like, well, I get a free mount trade I'm not using otherwise. Retreat and charge on a Terrorgeist is awesome. You know, I like his simplicity of like, you're just going to go to the left and you're just going to do something over there. And the rest of my army, we're going to figure this out. Just be terrifying. Be the, not necessarily the distraction Carnifex, but yeah.
I mean,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, my honest answer is I think if you're not using Usharon, I think there will be many builds of this of this army that like legitimately just don't have a big monster in them.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah. So obviously, I get the potential of this guy leaning into the old school builds. We haven't even mentioned it yet. Like this army used to be based around fighting twice. This was fighting twice the army, right?
Sure.
And then that was feeding frenzy old school. They changed that now, +1 attacks, and very good change because that was often not a great play experience. So obviously, you could shove this guy down somebody's throat. Hope you roll 6s, blah blah blah. I find him maybe interesting as more of, I mean, as usual with my bent utility play, where it's like you're kind of adding up these different variables. And if you can lean into a fair amount of healing, maybe he does need to be your general potentially. As far as like an all-purpose play, you go the keep him safe generally from more than 12 inches away. And then you're looking to pick your spots with this guy. But he's a lot of points to pay. Like how much? 450.
450, yeah.
I don't know.
He's a big chunk. I mean, he's based like all your big monsters are the same. They're all in the same range.
Yep.
So when I look at Ushra, if like I said, Vince, I think there will be if you're not going Ushran, there'll be a lot of lists that just don't do a big piece.
Agreed.
So why wouldn't you just do Ushran compared to this guy? Like
just like raw mobility and speed. Like this dude is faster and can potentially crack things that Ushran can't. His
with more wounds. Yes.
And when I play with big monsters like this, I always send them off to the sides because I want them to apply pressure to places that my opponent doesn't want to be. Usharon sits in the center of the board because I want that bubble. So it just depends on what you want to do with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you could also potentially look at maybe a tandem play again, like that idea of Usharon and something else that could be fighting first and really put a whammy on something. I don't know. It feels like there's something here that people are going to make work, but it definitely doesn't strike me as like an obvious go-to with a lot of lists.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Abhorrent Ghoul King on Royal Zombie Dragon. No. Nope.
Let's see. So this guy, he's got enemy units cannot receive the Inspiring Presence more than 3. So he's got Draconic Terror. He's got the Healing, Monstrous Hunger. Cast value 6, range 18. Wholly within range of the caster filled with Monstrous Hunger. Next turn, unit filled with Monstrous Hunger can run and still charge later in the turn. Affiliated Court monsters. So that's interesting. So this is potentially part of your monster build.
Yeah, and it is to Gristlegore what the bring back a dragon command ability is. Yeah, it's there for them. I feel like I don't see a lot of value outside of it.
I also agree. Yep. I am now going to point out a thing that I've pointed out in previous books.
Okay.
This is a thing that drives me completely insane. Okay. Mergonk, here's why you're wrong. Draconic Terror. First of all, Draconic Terror is a bad ability. Enemy units cannot receive the Inspiring Presence command while they're within 3 inches of any friendly units with this ability. As someone who has this on all of his Sons of Bahamut, and who's played with this quite frequently, okay, this ability, let me explain to you what every smart player does the second you tell them this rule, how this rule works.
Sure.
You go into them, you attack them and kill them. They pull their casualties. They remove their casualties so they are not within 3 inches of you.
Yeah,
Combat
I mean, there
ends.
will. Sure. There will be situations.
This ability does nothing, and they use Inspiring Presence as normal. Okay?
Yeah.
Does that happen every single time? No. No,
Right.
obviously not. Can it happen a lot? Yes. Yes, it can. Now, here's a different thing that I also hate. This is the zombie dragon, and he has Draconic Terror. This is the Terror Geist, and he does not have that ability. His terror is literally in his name, and he doesn't have that ability. It drives me insane. Why do both of them not have this ability? I will die on this hill. If you're going to use the word terror in the ability description, then the guy who has terror in his name should do the terror thing.
Sure.
Okay. Now, at any rate, back to this dude. Yeah, I just don't think he's worth it.
Yeah.
I really don't. He doesn't do basically any damage. He is fragile. He has a good spell for your other monsters. I don't buy this dude at all.
Yeah. That one very much overcosted.
Yeah.
Like big time. Yeah. The Tronic. Yeah. Anyway, you kind of said it. The Draconic Terror will have instances where it will be relevant. I'm thinking like elite units like Ten Chosen, or name something. It's kind of like elite high value units where they're gonna have a hard time pulling enough models to get set up. It's not going to work against potentially hordes, although, yeah, if you're doing a certain amount of damage, they're just going to potentially pull away all else equal. But I don't know. It's hard to, but you said you played a lot, and I would definitely believe you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it comes up
the
with
number of
something.
times people have just pulled models on me so they don't have to worry about it is like too many to count.
Yeah. So.
You know, yeah, he's your monster dude. If you're Grizzlegore and you like monster things and you want to make your monsters run in charge, cool.
Yeah.
Go for it. He has a use. It is a very defined, narrow use, but they gave him a job. So he gets the passing grade from me. It's a C. He gets a C, but he's passing the course. He will get handed a diploma, right? It's fine. Okay? That's it. Okay. Now we get into some foot folks, the little tiny peoples.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Grand Justice Gormain, Mr. Intestinal Wig. I mean, let's face it, we all love this guy. He's great. Mm-hmm. This dude will be very hard. He is an aberrant. He's 140 points. His stats don't really matter. He is going to be very hard pressed to build up noble deeds points, assuming he's not sitting in the
throne, which is often where he'll be. Yeah.
Which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But because he does have like a basically infinite range on his judgments, so he's like Mr. I sit in the throne, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he has abilities that are not prayers, nor are they spells. They are just things he does.
Yep.
And one of them is 3-up, +1 to wound for all of your, like you pick an enemy unit, it's +1 to wound for your army against that unit. Mm-hmm. He has one that's on a 3-up. They can run and charge. Your army can run and charge that enemy unit. Okay, which is obviously very potent because you only need to bring, like the unit only needs to finish. One guy finishes within half an edge, he satisfied the criteria, then the rest of the unit could go plow into something else.
Yep.
That's fine. And then he has another ability, Grievous Insult to the Court. And they have to be visible to this unit and within 3 inches of an aberrant. On a 3-up, you add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Flesh Eater Courts units that target that. So, okay, fine. I'll pick the +1 to wound most of the time. And then Regicide, which I do deeply appreciate, him passing judgment, where if somebody's killed an aberrant, as is fairly decently likely to happen. He rolls the die, and on a 3-up until the end of that turn, all of your army gets +1 to damage against that unit. Which, I mean, I don't know how many times I need to say it, but turns out +1 to damage, pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, this guy's great. I mean, like, he's super good, right? He's just super good.
Yeah. I like him. I mean, he kind of operates in his own weird little space because, yeah, they're not spells or prayers or anything, and you can't become part of Blister Skin, so he can't become a priest.
Yeah, Hollowmorn keyword.
Yeah, he's locked into Hollowmorn. Yeah, which again I'm here for. Way to be locked into the best subfaction. Good choice. One thing I didn't mention. Sorry, this is worth saying, real quick here. Is that Usharon is also tidally locked into Hollowmorn. We didn't mention that originally, but that is worth mentioning. Which is wild. So, I mean, it's wild to me that the best subfaction on rules alone, they then tide locked the best characters too as well. So, like, I mean, they're just excellent design, guys. Really, really, just really, really, really good stuff. So there you go. Yeah.
I suspect a lot of lists are gonna have a hard time passing this guy up. I mean,
Agreed.
again, he's one of the closer elements to. I don't know, even this guy, not necessarily auto include, but he's high up there. Yeah, I think on the list of what you're looking to throw in. I mean, these buffs are incredible, and he's a natural one to throw in your Charnel Throne.
Just was it the one where everybody gets to run and charge towards, like, just point him at the whatever the screen is. Screen's gone. You know?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. The Abhorrent Gore Warden. This is the new guy out of the box. I really like this dude. I think this dude, he is an aberrant. He is a wizard. He's a single caster wizard. He heals like most of these guys do. They all have, like, all the Royal Blood people heal D3, and it's just in the hero phase. So if you do damage yourself in spellcasting or something like that, you can heal yourself after, which is cool. And then the important part about this guy is he's Mr. Ambush. There's two things that are relevant here. One is he can take your Crypt Flayers or your Morbeg Knights, your Bat Knights, and he can take them off board at the beginning of the game. And then he can set up with them in the game under normal ambush rules. Like, he has good ambush then. So 9 inches away, anywhere on the board, has to be down by turn 3. Right? So, great stuff. He also has a spell that then lets him pick the same units, basically. So, like, but it could be more. It's basically one friendly Flesh Eater Quartz unit that can fly. So it could be him himself, because he obviously has wings. Could be other things that can fly. Could be a big flappy or whatever. Could be the kumquat, whatever. And he can teleport them. Like, that's it. He teleports them somewhere else on the board. They're set up 9 inches away. It's a super good spell.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
Cool ability, cool spell, Stormcast offense profile. This guy is point to your heroes being squishy. I had this guy. This is one of the guys I used, and I was like, I'm gonna slide into this unit of Boingrot Bounders and attack him. And then I did, and then I died. The Bounders proceeded to bound all over my face and eat him and kill him pretty easily. So you do have to. I wasn't ready for that level of fragility. It wasn't there in my head. So yep. So
this
same thing happened to mine.
There you go. Glad we're on the same page. Yes, we both got caught in the trap of, like, this dude seems like he'd want to be a fighter, right? I want to get some noble deeds points. Oh no. Oh, I've gone wrong.
I did this sweet thing where I set up him and the knights, the Morbeg Knights coming in, got the reroll charge from the Courtier bubble. I launched the knights at one unit. They did great. I love them. But he whiffed all 5 attacks and then immediately just got punked.
Yep. Anybody who's used the standard Stormcast attack profile of 5-3-3-1-2 knows that it's not exactly the most powerful thing in the world.
No.
Yep. So this guy is your source of, speaking of Stormcast, well, they can't null deploy, but deploying a lot of stuff off board. You could literally
Yeah.
build a list that null deploys with this guy. Yeah, multiple units of him. More Bag Knights, Crypt Flayers, go to town. So that's just kind of cool as an option. This guy takes the obfuscation really well to help keep him alive. I don't know if that's going to be the go-to direction again with a lot of competitive list building. We already mentioned, say it again, he makes more Bag Knights battle line, so that's interesting.
If he's the general.
If he's a general. Yeah, maybe a little expensive. I mean, I think he's going to show up, not as near auto as Grand Justice Gourmet, but yeah, pretty cool. And definitely, it's nice to have the ability to put some stuff off the board, and benefit from 7-inch charges or 8-inch charges.
I like that he's good enough that if he's not an auto include, it's irrelevant. Your opponent needs to be prepared to deal with it because you're going to see a ton of it, and just having that show up outside 9 is just gross.
Yeah, I agree. This guy's ability to take like 6 knights off board, set them up, and then give them a 7-inch charge is just really, really, really strong, right?
Especially, I mean, like Crypt Flayers. I'm pretty high on Crypt Flayers. I don't know if that's a hot take, but
I don't think so. I think they're good.
Yeah. So this, like 4 Tempesters has been a thing for a long time now. I'm not necessarily saying that 6 Crypt Flayers certainly are not going to be 4 Tempesters, but you could go Blister Skin, get up to 9 Crypt Flayers, right? Keep them safe, drop them in. I'm hoping that they're 10-inch range or better, and they're not 9-inch range. I think they're 10-inch range. They could do a lot of work with shooting, as we'll get into, particularly with a Crypt Infernal Courtier. So it opens up some power projection, right? You keep pieces safe, deliver power projection. That's notable.
Sure.
One combo that I just wanted to point out, because I don't think we're going to spend a ton of time on the Courtiers. There's not much to them. The Crypt Infernal Courtier for the Flayers, if he is in range of a Flayers unit, they add 1 to the damage characteristic of their missile weapons.
Yeah.
Which is super tasty. So one thing you could do is he just has to be near them. So you start him on the board, run him as far as you can directly at the target.
Right.
Movement phase, the other ones come down and they use the buff. I don't know. I thought that was kind of a fun idea.
Yeah.
I kind of like it, but
yeah, man.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Very good. Let's keep going. The Abhorrent Arch Regent. I'm here for this guy.
Yes.
This guy is what it like. Take note. This is what peak performance looks like right here. 7 wounds, 4-up save. Tilblecaster Wizard for 150 points. Heals the D3 like always. At the start of your hero phase, you can return up to 3 slain models to 1 friendly serfs unit that is within, not wholly, 18 inches of this unit, or you can return 1 slain model to 1 friendly knights unit that's within 18 inches of this unit. You love to see it. Works amazing with the ability to bring on back half units, or the half strength things. Works great for just topping people up to little losses to shooting. Little 3 units a night, pop back on the board as 2. Oh, hey, did you say 2? I meant 3. Bloop, other guy's back again. Guess who's back? Back again. And then Carrion Call is a spell that has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast in the flying movement phase, friendly Flesh Eater Courts units that are set up at the end of that movement phase can immediately move D6 inches. I'm sorry, what?
only we had some way to regenerate new units or possibly teleport them around the board.
Yeah, or ambush people or teleport people. Man. So yes, this was my other hero. I never successfully cast this spell, though I tried every turn. It just kept blowing myself up. Couldn't get a 6. 6 turns out, even with bonuses, like I had +2 to cast, still couldn't get a 6.
We thought about trying not crapping on Magic every day of every week to see if that helps.
No, because this is why Magic is dumb. Okay?
Just a suggestion.
Yeah. I had +2 to cast, proceeded to roll a 1 and a 2 to get a 5, and I was like, all right, well, I've got a Primal Magic dice. I just need to not roll a 1. Rolled a 1.
You ever heard the phrase, Doug,
Boom.
You get what you celebrate, you get what you honor?
Yeah. So this guy is really strong, and this spell is really strong. So yep.
Theoretically, of course.
Theoretically.
Sure. As always, it's and Mergonk, I think it's a false equivalency. He said, I seem to remember movement after translocate being too much. Translocate was a prayer you could basically autocast. I mean, it just was. You didn't fail. You didn't fail Translocate. And the movement after it was 10 inches on fulminators, which puts you way, way, way farther. This is a d6 inches, and you've got to get a spell off to do it, which, as I alone proved, you can very easily go a whole game without doing. So it's just a false equivalency, man. Like, I get it. Movement after teleport is, like, super powerful. I'm not disagreeing with that. Okay, it is. Yeah. This is, like, really pushing it. Okay, a lot. But everybody knows this is going to be your thing, right? And they're going to, like, gee, I wonder where their primal magic dice are going to go for the unbind.
Exactly.
Real big question.
Yeah.
You know. So this is like a super strong spell, but it's just very hard to get off.
This was on the list of obvious things to keep an eye on. I generally agree with Vince. I don't expect this to be that much of an issue. Certainly not this season. There's multiple ways people just say no to magic. Multiple armies that can just say no to magic. And yeah, we've got primal dice. So yeah, I think this will be fine. All else equal, which is a little, I mean, because it is historically incredible. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I think it's awesome. I mean, I'm looking at a night focus list myself, and I think he's incredible just for that. The countless servants, like he's already doing things by being a 2-cast wizard. Yeah,
and
you know,
returning models.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't even have a whole like drop alpha strike strategy, and I'm just looking at that spell as like icing on the cake for a round 1, and then I'm gonna forget about it. I don't care.
Sure.
But like, he's still great. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, he's gonna be in tons of lists. Probably the number 1 on the board right now for auto.
Yep.
Yeah, really good.
I don't know. I think Gourmain has more utility.
Yeah, he's up there too. Yeah.
It just depends. It depends on how many things you have dropping in, right? If for me, carry and call is a bonus, but if it's a thing that you're banking on,
sure, yeah,
definitely change it.
Yep. So very strong for things like coming in with, say, the Gore Warden and the Knights, right? To then drop them and scoop them up, or the Flares. Then you're really easily getting within range for your screams for that big unit, that kind of thing. There's also and then also landing the charge. So lots of powerful stuff. The Abhorrent Ghoul King, this little dork on foot, he's bad. You're not going to take him. This guy will never make a list, so I'm not even going
to. What? I would take him. I mean, he would be a micro version of the version of him on the Terrorgeist, where you just take a hero and you're like, I don't care about you. But cause a ruckus, because as someone pointed out, he can charge in the hero phase, which means he gets to ignore Unleash Hell, which I think is probably the greatest bane of this army, in my opinion.
It is, and
he that I had.
But like, I still think this guy is super bad. Like, I cannot see this guy making the list of 6 or whatever. Like, he's just not making my list. I gotta get some Courtiers in here. I gotta have Gourmain. I gotta have an Archregent. Like, I just can't see this guy making the cut, even with the unusual hero phase charge, which is fun and weird. I will give it to him.
Yeah.
But no, he's just not making the cut. Like, a hero phase charge is funny, but then he charges in and drops dead because he's a 6-wound hero with 4 up, 6 up, and a Stormcast profile. DOA.
Sadly. Yep.
I feel like if he was a 2-cast, it would be more tempting.
Oh, sure. But yeah, it's a single cast wizard too. Like, I'll spend the 20 points and just take another Archregent who's doing so much heavy lifting for 20 points.
That's a big deal,
okay. The Abhorrent Cardinal. Finally, the clergy is here. Okay, great. 5 wounds, 5 up save. Obviously, this guy is a priest. He is an abhorrent. It's in the name. He can heal, and he has a prayer. He has a prayer that is like, let me give you some NPE. You are blessed, my son, with the NPE. He picks an enemy unit within 18 inches and blesses them with the NPE of every time that enemy unit receives a command on a 4-up. That command has no effect. Very powerful effect.
Yeah.
Certainly. 50-50 coin flip that all-out attack, all-out defense, inspiring bravery, inspiring presence, blah, does nothing. Which means effectively you just don't waste. What this prayer actually says is, unless it's going to win them the game and they're willing to risk it for the biscuit, okay, unless this command ability usage is going to win them the game, this unit you target cannot receive command abilities. Because you're just not going to waste your command point on it. You're not going to like, I'll just pick a different unit to all out defense or all out attack or whatever. Like, very often that's what's going to happen. Again, unless it's like, well, I've got to land this or I lose the game, right? In which case you'll like 50-50 it and flip a coin and heads you win, tails you lose. So there you go.
Which I still think is a good effect. I mean, it's not like, even if it said exactly what you said, I still kind of like that. I'm forcing decisions. I don't know. There's value in it. Honestly, I don't plan on not using the first or second prayer a whole lot. Like,
Sure.
What I mean is I plan on not using something besides those. So I like the prayer list more than this. Sorry, I got myself turned around there.
No, I got you. I mean, this guy's a perfectly fine 5-up ward delivery mechanism, which is what he's actually doing most of the time. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then the Marrow Scroll, this guy. We talked earlier about how he's probably going to be a hot general pick for that particular command ability. He's 100 points. He's cheap as chips. He's invulnerable to everything except AoE damage.
Yep.
Right? And he like has a funny little slip people a bone ability. Right, and they can take that or not, and like funny things happen when that occurs. I don't know how often he's going to use the slip people the bone, because he doesn't really want to be within 3. He wants to be kind of outside of that.
Yeah,
he does have like the standard again Stormcast profile, but he will die in melee if you let this guy get attacked. He's a 5 wound, 5-up, 6-up hero. He will get chopped down. Now. He is a courtier hero, and for my money, just simply based on his utility with that command ability, if you're looking to exploit that command ability, this is the guy.
Yeah. And he has my favorite thing of all the courtiers, which is a 2-inch range weapon.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
You can bubble wrap him.
Depending on what you're fighting, he could fight over the top of like, ghouls or other stuff like that and get away with it. So, yeah, 100%. Yep.
So this is one of the guys, Vince, to go back to the bravery conversation, where again, I accept that this could require a fair amount of setup, could be difficult at times to execute. It's certainly one of the things that gets me excited as just a possibility of where you could build a list that tries to do something cool. All right. So with the whole bone thing, right? If the enemy often is going to want to accept the bone, because otherwise they're going to be striking last. Strike first effect applies friendly fleshed quartz within 3 of that unit until the end of the following combat phase. So very well could be the case in a lot of situations they're going to need to accept it. All right. If they accept it, the enemy unit becomes infected. For the rest of the battle, roll 2d6 before an infected unit issues or receives a command, attempts to cast a spell, chants a prayer. Basically, it's a bravery check. And if they fail it, if that roll is greater than that unit's bravery characteristic, that unit cannot perform that action, right?
Sure.
So you take the Marrow Scroll Herald, and you have a unit of flayers that picks his ass up,
Sure.
transports him, right, to a key spot on the battlefield to deliver his bone. Let's see, pick one unit with 3. Yeah, because he can charge. You can drop him more than 3 away from the enemy, from the flayers. He could charge. So it just is it going to happen much? It's one of those toolbox type plays that could be amazing if you can execute it. Anyway, that was one of the thoughts that came to my mind when I was reading this guy.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, sure. I don't see the bone as the worthwhile thing. It's fine. Like, you've heard of OBR and SPG, right? You've heard of those armies?
Obviously, in this game, you can point to armies that don't care about this. I'm not saying this is universal in application. There are a lot of armies where this could be relevant. OBR and Soul Blight may not be one of those armies. It's something that would require,
chaos
again,
in general, like as a concept.
Sure. This is an army that is
around, Tyler.
capable of reducing bravery considerably. You have to build a list for it. I'm showing my Johnny. You're showing something different. It's fine.
Sure. Agreed.
With different energy.
Yeah, I agree. But like sometimes cards are just one with nothing, and sometimes they should be built around. Okay, like I get it.
Sure.
You've heard people say this is a Timmy trap, right? Like you've heard that phrase
I've
before,
heard
right?
that. Yeah.
Yes.
This
Guess
is
what?
Johnny
There are
Trap.
Johnny traps too.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say my operative word for the King's Entreaty ability is the word "can." You can. I'm like,
You can,
I
yeah,
don't,
you
I don't
can.
have to. I don't have to read
Right.
all this to my opponent. No, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So at any rate, cool. And then the Royal Decapitator, Mr. Head
Mhm.
Chopper guy. I love this model. 100
Yes.
points, 5 wounds, 5 up save. Yeah, he's okay.
He is. I mean, their version of the Mighty Lord of Corn. I love that axe.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
He's got a
Yeah.
reality
I
splitting
mean,
rusty axe, which you've
Yes.
got to appreciate.
Yep.
Greatest reward given to the true champions of Corn who lead
Mhm.
mighty brass hosts forth to conquer the mortal realms, or a rusty thing that this guy found in the corner in a pile of bones. You know, hey, either one could be the same functionality.
I do think they erred in one space,
Mhm.
though. I think at the end of Off with Their Heads, if you do roll that 5 up and they insta die, this guy should immediately max out on Noble Deed points.
Sure.
Like go to 6, whatever he's at, go to 6. Because right, if he's
100%, yes.
so
if
good.
he's just slain, he doesn't actually gain them, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You get whatever you did as actual
I
wounds.
see.
Yeah, yeah. You know what?
Any wounds?
You're absolutely right, Doug,
Yeah.
and that is a huge miss. I now hate this guy.
Yeah.
I'm angry at him for the lack of that incredible rule that isn't here. Darn it all. Let's get Narada going right now. That is amazing. Yeah, no, I love it. No, I think this guy's fun. Again, I don't think he'll actually make many lists. He's a melee foot assassin. He pulls in serfs into combat, which is fine. If you are building around some of the strike first, strike last shenanigans, he could have some play just to get extra units fighting.
I don't understand why they didn't give him a 2-inch range. I feel like for him,
giant axe. That is definitely
that
2
would
inches
just
long.
make so much sense. It would make him like interesting with serfs because then he can wrap him and he can reach over. But I don't get it.
Yep.
Mm.
But I do love
Again,
instant
though-
killing heroes.
Yeah, exactly. And he is the other one that came to mind with the flares. Pick him up and deliver him.
Sure.
Just as a threat. It's something.
Oh yeah.
If I'm playing against that, I'm as Vince would know, I'm respecting I'm just going to assume that they're going to hit the 5 up. So I'm going to do my damnedest to not allow them the possibility to hit the 5 up. Threat perceived, or what's the saying?
Power perceived is power achieved.
Power perceived, power achieved. Yes. The fact that the threat exists, he's doing his job.
Sure.
Mhm.
And
Like there's a very funny situation there where somebody has to play like they've got like Orgots and that kind of stuff, you know, like the big Nurgle heroes, and suddenly they're terrified of your ability to just like accidentally tick against that guy and then kill him, because that's the sort of character that is just like this little dork is a nightmare for. Right.
100%, yeah.
Where
The guy's
he
only
can
100
just
points.
bin your
Yeah.
300 point Orgots hero. Yes. I will say happily at 100 points, like I could see him with this little trick as a complete distraction to make people's play pattern change. I agree with you. If you had the crypt flares to carry him around.
Crypt flares, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just relying on him hoofing it up the board. I'm not
Sure.
buying
No.
that.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. So absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Brent. What's up, Brent? How you doing there, brother? He says, I absolutely appreciate that it did not add junk like a hero who is not a monster and has less than 9 wounds and. Yeah, she could just chop anybody's heads off. I mean, it is a funny world where this guy happens to accidentally resolve some damage against Archeon and then puts him in the bin.
Oh yeah, man.
In the axe, baby. In the axe, Archeon.
Right.
Like, if you're playing with this guy at a tournament, then your actual job over the tournament is what's the most expensive model you can get in the axe, right? That's the mini game you're playing.
It's the Matthew McConaughey from Reign of Fire, except he doesn't die. Like that's just
Yeah, exactly. Cool said, at some point he will kill a Stonehorn, and that'll be very sad. Disagree. It will be a day where I feel much joy, for I hate Frostlords on Stonehorn, for they are truly my bane. Every
I
time
feel like
these
if your
guys show up, I lose.
Stonehorn is alive and receives damage from this guy, 100-point model, and it didn't kill him on the approach, that's fine. That's not a good storm horn anyway.
You deserve to be in the axe. All right.
Call the herd.
Cryptghast Courtier, yeah, I mean, like, he is what he is. He's a little 100-point dude who pulls other serfs into combat, and he's pretty bad.
He's here to remind people that Games Workshop didn't invalidate your old models. Just exist.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
This is a blank war scroll. We can, this guy does what the last guy did, but the last guy does cool things like potentially kill
way
Archeon.
Worse.
Right, way worse. This guy's terrible. This is the worst war scroll in the entire book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Agreed. He's very bad. So bad. Stop using your one ghoul as a hero. This model does not exist.
Yeah.
Vargolf Courtier. Remember when Smashbat was a thing? Remember Smashbat? All right. So Vargolf Courtier, 8 wounds, 4 up save, 10-inch move, 10 bravery, 165 points. At the start of the combat phase, you can say that this unit will use this ability. If you do so, King's Champion. You can add 2 to the attacks characteristic of these as melee weapons, but it can only target units that have a wounds characteristic of 1 or 2 and do not have a mount. Okay. Fine. So he can go to 7 and 3, basically. And when he makes a move, he can pass across terrain in the same manner as a model that can fly. You know, we could have just given him fly. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Also, I hate that it's just terrain. It's not models.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really annoying that your own army can block this guy up, as can the enemy army. The whole point of this dude was that he could fly around and get into interesting positions. So, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Errata, please. They really need to give this guy fly. Or, yeah, yes.
I understand because, well, they didn't model him with wings this time. They modeled him with little, like the old version of him had wings. This version of him has little stretchy membranes, so he can glide instead. So we had to write a special rule. Okay. And then Victory Feast. At the end of the combat phase, if any enemy models were slain by wounds caused by this unit attacks in that phase, you can heal up to D6 wounds allocated to this unit. In addition, at the end of the combat phase, this unit can immediately retreat. That ability I do love very, very, very much. I do want to play with this guy. I haven't tried the Vargolf Courtier yet. 165 is probably a little expensive legitimately for what he actually does, despite having like 8 wounds. He is still very, very thin. And his extra attacks thing is very swingy. Otherwise, he's not doing much in the way of damage. He has like a Stormcast profile with a tiny little bump from the dagger-like fangs. His movement is much more limited now. But the immediately retreat at the end of the combat phase is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I do not hate this guy. At 8 wounds, he's interesting. That's what I'll say. He actually is a courtier who could potentially build up his own noble deeds points through actually killing something.
Right.
Which is nice.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, Assistant Ref says he can jump over a 20-inch tall tower, but not a 1-inch tall ghoul. Yep. That is absolutely correct. Complete
Doug,
logic.
do you like this guy or?
Doug, where are you living on the Vargolf?
Oh, I love him. I like the idea of hit and run units because it's a good mix with chaff going out, being sent out to die, basically. Sure. And then you have these little ping pong balls of chaos, kind of like the Doom Seeker. I like him quite a bit. I didn't really get to use a chance to use him a ton, sadly. But I mean, he is to me the embodiment of that idea of the distraction Carnifex. If you haven't heard of it before, just a semi-cheap unit that like it doesn't require a lot of investment. It requires no support. This guy can just go and do stuff.
Totally.
And is it easy to kill at 8 wounds and a 4 up 6 up? Yeah, but I dare your opponent to not think about it because like if you leave him alone, he'll shred you.
Yeah.
I like that.
No, I love that you mentioned that. That was my first thought as well. A big fan of pieces like that and list that do exactly that, right? They stretch your opponent out potentially. Something used Bastion a lot last year. I mean, he's arguably a little expensive, but he was a great piece like that.
Mhm.
He would be stacking like 3. He'd have his way of if he kills a model, he heals. It's just an annoying SOB. And this thing is not going to be as durable as Bastion, obviously, but he can play a similar role. There's a question about this whole, in addition, at the end of the combat phase, this unit can immediately retreat. So what if he's not within? He fought, but he's not within 3
Yeah,
inches
he's
of
not
anything
within
at the end of
3
the combat
inches of an
phase.
enemy. Yeah, again, then theoretically he can't retreat, right? Because it's not, he doesn't satisfy the criteria for
Seemingly.
it, which is what's unfortunate. It really
Yeah.
should state immediately retreat, or if no enemies are within 3 inches, make a normal move, right? Like that's how
Right.
it should be worded.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, would love to see that get
But-
cleaned up so you can have that edge case.
I also don't know how much of like my appeal and my attraction to this unit is because when I look at this war scroll, it's like very dynamic. I think about this monster moving around, slashing big units and small ones. And then if you look directly above it is the blankest war scroll in all of Warhammer. So maybe it's just like
Yeah, sure. By comparison,
she's
yeah.
not a 10, she's a 7 standing next to a 2,
Yeah,
could be
yeah,
horribly
yeah, right
patriarchal
on.
about it, but you know what I mean.
I do. Okay, right on. All right, the Crypt Infernal Courtier and the Crypt Honker Courtier, 145 and 140. Somebody said I thought we weren't doing the 5-point things anymore. We're not, but this book was written like a million years ago, so it was like super delayed, obviously, for that because it was waiting on the Dawnbringers thing. I mean, I'll be super simple and straightforward with these guys. I think these are both perfectly fine Courtier choices. At 6 wounds each, they're very similar models. Obviously, the Infernal can fly. The Infernal has a very nice ability with the +1 to damage characteristic for Crypt players, which is great. And the Crypt Haunter Courtier pulls in Crypt Horrors, which I actually really value in this case. Just because I think Crypt Horrors are really good. And so the fact that this is a Courtier that actually wants to fight to get his Noble Deeds points and can fight and then pull in his actual charging Knight, Hollowmorn, Crypt Horror units, which come in and start swinging around 4 damage, butt-kicking attacks, greatly reduces the chance that anyone reprisals against him and actually kills him. Because generally, if the big unit of Crypt Horrors fights right after him, they stand a good chance of like really fundamentally weakening the unit and pushing you to putting it in a place where they can't reprisal against this dude. So I think both these guys have some play.
I agree. They're my favorites. One thing I wanted to add on is that because they are this model kit, like their base size is 40 mil, and so it's bigger than the other one. So even when you talk about something as small as a Courtier, like projecting those same bubble sizes gets way bigger.
Yep. Absolutely.
Excuse me. Yeah, the mind shattering cacophony. I mean, that's potentially just insane damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
didn't
guy's
you
gonna
say you had a friend who was all about flares? Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes. It could get really scary. I don't know. We'll see. It could do a lot. I
agree. I think both these guys have play. I'm interested to get both of them on the table and give them a try, honestly, and see how it works. I think they're both really good Courtiers, and I think they can actually do the work.
Yep, I agree.
Crypt Guard. Okay, so we're finally through the stack of heroes. Crypt Guard are 1 wound models with a 5-up save. These are the new little ghouly boys.
Yes.
That we all thought were ghouls, but they're not ghouls. They're not the replacement ghouls. They're new ghouls. They are serfs still. They're not knights. They are just serfs. If any wounds caused by this unit's attacks are allocated to an enemy unit, that enemy unit cannot issue or receive commands until the end of the turn. So, pretty decent there.
Yeah.
And then this unit has a ward of 5-up. In addition, add 1 to ward rolls for friendly Flesh Eater Courts hero, wholly within 3 of this unit. That will, of course, be immediately FAQ'd that it does not stack in any way. Okay?
Sure.
Oh, yes.
So if you're planning on thinking that will stack, you're wrong. It won't. Things like that do not stack in this game. They do not survive an FAQ. How the text isn't there, I don't know. But here we are. But it will be FAQ'd. 1,000% it will be FAQ'd. They have +1 run and charge built in. The most powerful rule they have, as usual, for having a musician. So good stuff on that. And yeah, they're like a little bodyguard unit, but they are pretty expensive at 140 for 10.
Mhm.
And even at 5 up, 5 up, they are not that strong. Like they will die pretty easy. So that is something to be aware of. It doesn't take
Mhm.
much to lift this unit, but I think you'll see I think you'll see some people trying builds where 10 of these guys are, as we said, the little snake around
Yeah.
Isheron. It's kind of
When
Yeah.
I played my game, I had really good success with them by using them as like my backfield perimeter for deep striking stormcast. So like I
Mhm.
had the rest of my army up front, and then these guys going in a line across the back because that's where all the hero supporters are. And then anything that wants to charge in, it's just 10 dudes spread out pretty well. It's a good bubble.
Yeah. Yeah, they feel a little high potentially. I mean, if anyone wants to try to push against your claim, Vince, of reasonable claim of don't throw good money after bad, this unit would be the unit potentially because you could do Defense of the Realm plus 1 save, Mystic Shield, you could potentially get the save stacking going on a big unit of 30, which could do a lot of output as well.
sure.
Are they
Yeah, damage
25s?
wise, they're perfectly fine at
Yeah.
2 attacks, threes, -1/1. But like
Yeah,
they don't even hold a candle to ghouls as far as just like regular ghouls as far as damage output potential.
sure. Right. Yeah, so you're trying to, yeah, you're getting less damage, but more durability potentially. I don't know, not even sure on that because of the ratio of wounds to point cost. Yeah, they're probably a little too expensive, but I could see some folks trying a big unit of 30 and just doing the usual thing of, right, like, let's layer as many buffs on this. Let's hit Curse, let's hit Deranged
Sure.
Transformation, let's hit Mystic Shield, and you're just going to town trying to get as much of this unit as possible. It's got a solid profile, 2-inch reach, 25s, you're going to get a lot in on
Yep.
big unit, but yeah, it's a little hard to see it right now.
I what would you think about like say a bomb that was say like the Crypt Haunter Courtier, a bunch of Crypt Horrors, and one of these guys, and like obviously their reason for being there is to keep the Haunter
Yeah.
um with a better
I think
save.
they're a
But
great second line. Like that's a beautiful
yeah,
thing.
that's
And
kind
you
of what I'm
have like
getting at.
you have like the 6 horrors who can now be single file because of the
Mhm.
coherency change.
Mhm.
You've got the Haunter Courtier on the end, and you got
Mhm.
these dudes chained out right behind, 2-inch reach. They can fight over the top of the Crypt
Yes.
Honkers, right? Like
Mhm.
that kind of a thing. Like that's I actually love these guys in mins, just kind of floating around, running behind
That's what I was
the
thinking
other
about doing with
units.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely, 100%. So yeah, I don't dislike these guys at all. I think these are a great unit that works in like a tenor of these guys. I feel like yeah, sure, I'd see that. I'd
Mhm.
see that. And you're just putting them
Yeah,
wherever you think your center of power is going to be to get the ward buff,
Basically, yeah.
right.
and potentially chop in and shut off commands. You know.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Yeah, good point.
Morbeg Knights. Love these guys. They're
Yes.
amazing. They are fragile. They are Italian because they when you buy the box it says Fragile right on the side. But 3 wounds, 4 up save, 12-inch move. They can fly because they know how their wings
Mhm.
work. And they get no actual lance bonus despite the fact they have a lance, but that's okay because you're gonna play Hollow Morn anyways, and so they have +1 to damage. And they get +1 to run and charge built in for the musician, which is their most powerful ability. They have a little shrieking charge that shuts off Unleash Hell. Do you want to know how I
Mhm.
lost these guys in the game the first time before I regen
Oh,
them? Unleash Hell.
yep.
Because they shut off a single unit that is within 1 inch of them. Turns out people can have other units that shoot within 6 inches. So in my guys charged, and the primary unit couldn't unleash hell, but the unit behind them with guns sure could.
That's awesome.
And the Fusiliers were like, so we shoot these guys? Yeah, cool. Blam blam. And then went bye-bye went the Morbeg Knights. So that is not a long enough
Yeah.
range for that, people.
No, yeah,
No.
yeah.
It's a missile that needs to land on the first shot.
Yeah, just like yell farther. Is that the real art on this page? Just a bunch of fire slayers. Yes, there's like a little there's a ghouly crypt guard there because it's the other. It goes back to back with this page. See, they're fighting here. Like there's the other little ghoul. And then this unit can retreat and still charge later in the turn. That's cool. If they're alive, that's cool. But that is going to be the tough thing. I like these guys in units of 6. I think 6 is right. I think 6 is a unit in the sky with a Gore Warden's a perfectly viable build. I think 3 on the ground, if you're not going to put them in the sky, 2 units of 3 is actually the better build there. So like 2 min units where they can run around and be interesting flankers, because then if you do recall them, you're getting them back in 2 out of the 3. Easy to pop the third guy back in through many different ways. They're interesting little harassers to deal with chaff and stuff like that. And they won't be scary enough that people have to focus on them, but they are very, very fast and very, very mobile and can get in and do some interesting damage. And that's where the retreat and charge can actually work if they're fighting things, jumping in on flanks, stuff like that. If they're not hitting, sort of the power of the enemy force. There's plenty of armies where that's not going to work. But they are only 9 wounds on a 4-up, 6-up. Like, let's be clear. They die very fast.
Yeah.
One thing I want to throw in here, this has little to do with the profiles. So they sent us this box early. If you ordered one of these boxes, I highly recommend you build the knights first, because the heads with the helmets can then be used on the other things. I built everything else first, and then I was like, oh man, wish I had these freaking helmeted heads for my crypt guard, because it makes them look tougher. I don't know.
It's a really good call out. And they give you many extra heads on the
they do
sprue, which is nice, because then when you do your crypt guard or whatever, you can give them all cool helmeted heads. Yeah.
Good call. And there's like 2 extra shields and stuff like that. It's cool.
Yep. Good call.
I don't know if I missed it, or Vince maybe mentioned it, but the standard bearer, if it made a charge move in the same turn, each model in this unit counts as 3 models for the purpose of contesting objectives. So that's kind of neat. Unit of 6, cool. 18 models. Yeah, they can actually steal an objective. I mean, there may not be anything left if they deliver their charge on that objective in the first place. But yeah, it's kind of neat.
No, it's a very cool, unique ability. You're right. I didn't mention it, and I should have. But yeah, obviously these guys can drop and pop on 7 inches on a 7-inch charge. Just base if you're in this, and the delusion with +1 to run and charge. So strong, but strong but fragile. They're a perfect unit, honestly. Like, this is perfect design. They have a very clear role. They have 2 very clear functions. They can play within that role. They can deal good damage, especially in Hollowmorn, but they're fragile to pay it off. It's everything I want in unit design. They look amazing. It's functional. A+. Like, this is how units should be created.
Make that shrieking charge, at least the unleash shell part, a little longer, 3 inches.
That's not. You're right. Sorry, A, not A+. Yes, there you go. They lose. They got like a 94%, right? And that 6% is the markdown I'm giving them for not turning off the unleash shell. The longer range unleash shell. Yeah. Crypt flares and crypt horrors.
Tyler.
So I'm more intrigued by the crypt flares. Oh, he's back.
I'm back. I could hear you guys the whole time. That was so weird. But anyways, keep going, please.
Yeah, I'm more intrigued, Doug, by the crypt flares personally, but I think the crypt horrors, if you had to pick a unit, like what's most likely to be the backbone of a lot of lists, I think it's going to start with crypt horrors, which had been the case, of course, for quite a while with Flesh Eater Cords. Like 2x9 crypt horrors. I could see a lot of lists running 1x9 horrors, starting with that, right? So yeah, both are really good.
I think I go horrors. I lean that way. Purely aesthetics, but yeah.
Nice.
I'm with that. I like the horrors because like the 4-up to hit is le poopy, right? Obviously, but it's easy enough to modify it. Just, you're going to run into neg 1 to hit sometimes. It's going to really ruin your day. But beyond that, I actually love these guys in 6s. I think these guys are a 6-pack for me all day, because then they have the good coherency.
Prove their ring characteristic by 1, wholly within 6 of any friendly courtiers, or 18 of any friendly abhorrents. And then he already mentioned it, but just to say it, unmodified wound rolls of 6 gives them an extra damage. I really wish, Doug, they would have taken that away, right? Because that's going to require 2 piles. And these guys are going to put out a bucket of dice, as they always have, right? So you got to separate that, take the time, get rid of that, do something different. But you're back.
Yeah.
I'm back. Yeah. I don't know what's going on. Anyways, yes, my internet's like, look, man, we've been at this a long time today. You gotta call it a day, bro. I agree. We already saw these scrolls. Notably, the crypt flares are battle line in Blisterskin. The crypt horrors are battle line in Hollowmorn. I think both have some play. The flares because of the scream and because of the infernal courtier.
Yeah, flares can get terrifying in Hollowmorn. You could be up to 2 damage on the missile. You can be 2 damage on the melee. Yeah, the delivery, a better delivery. The escort courtier is really interesting for utility plays with some heroes. we're gonna see these units definitely, and yeah, they're the part of the core backbone of the army, I think.
I agree. Ghouls, I love them. They now come in 20 for 160. They are battle line all the time. They are made of paper but can explode. The key being is that their attacks auto wound on a 5 if they to hit if they have 20 or more models. Boy, I thought we stopped hinging special rules to the model count in there as well, but I guess it's 2017 all over again with this book. And you know, I think these guys are just amazing. Like 320 points for 40 of these dudes just rules. You keep an abhorrent within the same sort of zip code as them at 18 inches, right? And if they get a deranged transformation, they're so incredible.
Oh, yes.
8-inch base move, 4s and 3s, easily becomes 3 and 3s with an all-out under feeding frenzy. They go to 3 attacks each, so they just like it's suddenly 90 attacks on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, and every 5 to hit is an auto wound. So you skip that wound, it shoots their damage through the roof as far as what it's capable of. It's not a mortal wound, it's an auto wound, but it's incredibly powerful when it's happening on 5s. So
if a new player was joining this faction, now that they're in increments of 20 rather than 10, how many would you suggest they have? So like I would want at least a block of 40, right?
Yeah.
So I could.
Yeah. I think like in my mind you want probably 60 ghouls. If you're like a new player, so that way you could do one max size brick if you ever wanted to. But you could also do like a 40 and a 20. Right?
Okay.
Like that.
I asked because I have 40 of them on my shelf, and I've been waiting to be like, how many do I actually need?
I think 60 is the right answer. My experience
I think it's
with
probably
units that
that's
come
kind of
in
what I was
20
looking
is
at.
like, if you're not going to spam them or skew them, that's the right answer.
Well, yeah, Vince, that gets into, I mean, you know, I'm a huge lover of spam in this game. I talk about it all the time, how much I love spam. This is the first one that came to mind in terms of potential out of bounds with the spam. You know, I'm hoping we don't see a lot of lists that, just basically rewrite repeat zombies. Apply the zombies concept to crypt ghouls. You can have a really strong recursion engine. They can put out damage, curse, range transformation, hoarfrost potentially. Yeah, you got to get some of these things off. You may not, but the potential is there, I think, for there to be a powerful list with a ton of these things. 5-up ward, that sounds really fun on 60 ghouls. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, we'll see. That was one of the basic questions I hadn't really answered in my head is like, what's going to be more attractive competitively? Is it going to be sort of like some spam direction, 2x9 whores, 2x9 flares and blister skin, X number of hundreds of ghouls, or is it the more toolbox list, right? That are trying to be more adaptive to et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the spam directions are easier, but are they better on the whole? I don't know. I'm hoping the answer is no.
Yeah, I mean, let me say it this way. So you could do like 3x40 or 2x60 and a 20 or something like that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference here between this and original recipe zombies. First of all, these guys are super glass cannons, but they're still playing fair Warhammer. Like, they have to actually go attack you and roll to hit and wound to kill you.
Right.
Original recipe zombie spam did so by killing you even when you were killing them.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
Like, you kill 40 of them, and then they just mortal wound you to death.
Yep.
Right? Original recipe zombie spam was also 120 points for 20, not 160 points for 20. I understand they've crept up now in points. But 40 points per unit that you're repeating and spamming is a huge amount. Huge amount. When we're talking about taking something 5-6 times, that's 200 points in the list. That is far from nothing. Okay, if any of us saw one of our prize units go up by 40 points in a battle scroll, we wouldn't go, no big deal.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Okay. Yeah. So like it's a lot of points. It's a material difference, right?
They're ultimately not...
I just think this is too limited of a set of functionality that what ghouls bring. To me, they're appropriate in a 40 pack as a like they will do what I would expect a hammer to do. And
Yeah.
that is against relatively low armor things. They will pop a crack a lacka right up on them, right?
Mhm.
Now, by the way, let's say you're on like you go into like I don't know, Blood Warriors or whatever, right?
Yeah.
There's many cases where they're just going to be like, I'm sorry, how many attacks do you make? All right, roll them out, man. Go ahead.
Sure.
All right, I lost
Right.
2 Blood Warriors. Okay, you done? Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
My turn. You know, like
Yeah.
that's very real, right? Where they're because if anybody who can still stay on a 2-up save against these dudes, you're just not going to get enough through, right?
Right.
Right. Yeah. Then the recursion engine is good. It's not as good on the back end in terms of topping off units that have come back, right? The replacements. You're replacing 40 with 20, but yeah, you're not getting as much leverage remotely, topping it off as you are with the knights, flares, horrors, Morbeck knights. So that's good as another balancing factor. Yeah, those are all really good points.
So,
Mhm.
Royal Beast Flayers again. It's the same thing we've seen before. So they're cool. They're pretty good. It's
There's
pretty
certs
good
now,
unit.
so you
Yep.
can yeah, you get really efficient recursion with these guys. Kill
That's
the
interesting.
higher wound characteristic models, bring them back
Mhm.
with your recursion. Yeah.
Yep. So
Yeah,
it's cool.
I like a tenor. Like I don't yeah, they're not able to be main battle line, I don't think anyway, but
They're
I think
not.
a
They are
tenor
not
I don't
battle
think
line
so
under
either.
any circumstance. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, a tenor as again another tool in your kit against monsters. They can be nice.
Agreed.
And they're
Yeah.
cheap. They're really cheap.
I was gonna say, yeah, they're so cheap that it's like I, I don't know if you have the models and you want to see them on the table, you're not an
Yeah.
idiot for taking them.
No, not at
Yeah.
all.
At
One,
some
they look
point at an event,
amazing.
you're gonna see a monster and they look great. Like take them.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think they look amazing. I think they are perfectly fairly costed. I think they have a role and function. And at 115 points, when you have monsters to fight, you're going to be happy you had them. When you don't, they can step in perfectly fine as sort of chaff, distraction, easy thing to refill and stuff like that. So, like, they can play
Right.
the double duty. They work.
Mhm.
Right.
The Royal Terrorgeist and Royal Zombie Dragons are bad. Cool.
Yeah,
Like, they
Are
just
you
are.
saying for their points or just in
Yeah.
general?
Yeah, for their points. For
for
their
their
points.
points.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
these guys
Yeah.
would have to be a lot lower to be worth it because they just do
No,
basically no damage. This is the problem.
I this is a
Anyway.
bummer. I want generic dragons and stuff to be good, but yeah,
Yeah, and
I do
this
agree.
Terrorgeist is a lot harder to buff than the
Mhm.
one with the hero on top because he doesn't have access to the mount trait and so on and
Yep.
so forth, right? He doesn't have access to the command ability. He's just a generic monster running around with like pretty nothing attacks. With I would like to point out this row right here where both of these monsters have a 2-hit of 4-up. And when you have a monster that has a low number of attacks and hits on a 4-up, A plus B equals C, and C in this road is crap. So, a monster with a bad 2-hit roll equals crap. See, A plus B equals C. See how it works? Math, people.
With that said, like you've already mentioned, it is nice that we do have at least enough variables that if you want to go have some fun with your monster list, you
Oh
have
yeah.
ways of getting a +1 hit bubble. You have ways of potentially getting +1 wound. You have ways of bringing back your monsters,
Absolutely.
right? Like you have tools, yeah, to actually go and have some fun with like maybe get 3-2. I don't know. Maybe some people will do better with that kind of gristle gore menagerie direction. But yeah,
I think the
on
tools
the
are all there. Yeah, it's all there. It's just the points are too out of whack.
yeah, they're a little
Yep.
high. Yep.
All right, the Cadaverous Barricade. You're in the spells. God, I hate I have to even talk about these things. Okay. All right. The Cadaverous Barricade is 20 points. It sets up on a very long range. And when it sets up, it makes it so enemy units within 3 inches of this terrain feature cannot run or retreat. In addition, if they start a move within 3 inches, they have the distance they can move when it makes that move. Okay.
Good.
If I mean, it
I
sounds
mean,
awesome, but not fun to be on the
it,
receiving end of. But yeah.
Sure. It's fine. It's a perfectly good spell for 20 points. Like, it's doing a lot.
Oh
Set
yeah.
it up, it doesn't go anywhere, it happens, it's a thing, and then it does that thing.
hmm
if it can be there when you need it to be there, it's amazing.
Right.
The question is if. Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, if you're going to include a Vargolf Courtier, it's like 165. You're going to have weird point
Mm.
values at the end. 20 points, toss it,
Yeah.
toss it in.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
not?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we just talked about
Yeah.
how
Good point.
the base spells in the book are like really bad. So, I mean, for 20 points, I've generally known the spell has to be almost completely worthless for to me to look at 20 points and go, nah, I wouldn't take it. But
Right.
like,
Sure.
this is pretty good for 20 points. It does something very clearly, right?
Just call it out. Yeah, and it says have the distance the model can move, right? So that's
Yeah.
pile-in moves as part of that. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yep. Starts a move. That is correct. It makes their pylons 1.5 inches. And then the chalice does what the chalice always did. It basically things die. It gets dice and then it rolls and then people come back. It's a very powerful spell if you can resolve it. And it's sitting in the middle of where a bunch of combat happens because it can heal your guys like crazy and or restore tons of models back to units. So
I'm surprised they added predatory. It used to not be predatory.
yeah,
So you can move around now, but yeah.
yep, you can fly around now
Uh,
at 50 points. Again, pretty good.
yeah.
The Corpse Mare Stampede, 12 inches. After it's moved, roll 6 dice for each unit that has any models it has passed across. For each roll that is greater than that unit's wounds characteristic, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. For each 6, it suffers 1 mortal wound, regardless of its wounds characteristic. Again, as per usual, the worst spell is the most expensive spell. They continue to think that occasionally doing some mortal wounds to a unit is worth a lot of points. It's not. Please stop thinking like this. What Warhammer game do you all play? It is a different one than is played by everyone else in the universe. Because many armies in this game, you will pass across, get 3 or 4 mortal wounds, maybe if they had a low wounds characteristic, and then they'll just heal those back. Like, this is not a 60-point spell. Get out of here. Why is it always the case that the worst one is the most expensive one? I just...
Yeah.
Like, it happens so frequently. I feel like they do it as a joke at this point. Like, they heard me say it, and now they're just doing it as a joke.
Now they're just doing it.
Because this is definitely worse than the wall. This is worse than the 20-point wall.
Yes, I would absolutely agree.
Yeah. Like, the 20-point wall doesn't roll dice to do anything. It just happens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And it has a pretty big effect for what's going on if it's in the right place. Anyways, I'm done. Corpse Mare Stampede, bad. Okay. Charnel Throne, you can garrison a hero of 7 wounds or less in it. It's going to be Gormain. That's who it is. The judge is ready to rule. And then while an enemy unit is within 12 inches of this terrain feature, it cannot be affected by any abilities that allow units to ignore battle shock tests. Good stuff. Which one wins?
Does that include Indomitable?
OBR's ability? Oh, the Indomitable Triumph? I don't know. I have no idea. It says no abilities. Any abilities. Do OBR need to make
That's a great
Battle Shock tests
FAQ
now?
question.
Even though it says they do not take battle shock tests?
Right, by any abilities. Yep. Let's get a string of errata going on this one.
In Magic, there's a sort of rule that can't always beats can. That's how these things work. Like, there's a general way that you can always slam against and one will always win. We don't have that in AOS, so there you go. And then Ruler of All They Survey at the start of your hero phase, add D3 Noble Deeds points to any friendly Flesh Eater Courts hero that is garrisoning the terrain feature. Obviously, super cool. So, great. Good stuff. Again, put Gormain up there, get them Noble Deeds. Pronounce upon your enemies, win. That's right.
Yeah, I
Pass
think
judgment.
between the throne and if you have a lucky roll on oration, you could probably get someone straight to 6 fairly. I mean, turn 1 pretty quick, I would think.
Sure.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. 100%. Yeah, like if you good roll here, good roll on the oration. Yeah, it's totally doable. Absolutely.
Or a priest or a wizard, another one there.
Yep. I mean, the Gormain can't become a priest because he is locked to Hollowmore and he can't take an item, which is unfortunate. But still, it's it's you just need a little bit of luck on your side. But yeah, you could get there. So, all right, and that's FEC. There we go. So all in all, like I said, I think it's good. I think there's a couple spots to watch that we called out. Ghoul spam, the command trait, refilling too many things. You know, potentially that stuff's a little on the edge. But for the most part, this book's in the right place. It looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It has a lot of different play strategies and patterns. Yeah. Like
a lot of different lists.
It's good.
Should be great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
this
it's very
is a
deep
good
toolbox, I
book.
think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think you did good. You did good.
Vince,
guys.
do you have a prediction, or where would you put your money on, like a competitive direction with this? Like in broad strokes.
53%.
Okay, and then as far as list archetype, like what do you think people are
Recursion.
going to try to?
Recursion and bodies with no big centerpiece.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably
Density.
agree. Hyper competitive. Yep.
The recursion with Cruel Taskmaster is the thing that jumps off the page immediately, and whether that's I could see. I think some folks are going to try like 2x9 flare, like really lean hard into flares. The horrors is there, obviously. It's been, like I said to Doug, it's been there for a long time. So like Jake did 2x9 horrors right out of the gate with his Season War Bat Rep the other day. So that's
awesome.
clearly there. Yeah. That could be amazing recursion. I threw together like a variety pack, like 20 goals, 10 Crit Guard, 10 Beast Flares, 9 Horrors, 6 Morbeg Knights, 6 Flares, Gore Warden, Archregent, Crypt Infernal Courtier, Marrow Scroll Herald. That feels like a very competitive list to me. Like
Sure.
fun, toolboxy, right? You got amazing variety, no duplicate units, options to respond to things. You got some screens. You're going to need some screens, seemingly, with some of these things. You don't have a huge centerpiece models. But yeah, I mean, I don't really look at that and think like, okay, that's a 5-0. Like I'm gonna quickly pilot that. But yeah, it feels competitive, feels interesting.
I mean, it feels to me like a 3 and 2, and that's all. I mean, that's my ideal space.
Yeah,
I go in, have a good time. I do better than I don't.
Yeah, pushing 3-2,
That's
pushing 4-1. The dream, the dream. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah,
So
pretty amazing book.
yeah, I'm pretty excited about it, and like I said, paying up my little boys, my little knights. They're gonna be ready to go to get on the table. I mean, I've got most everything else already ready. I've got like a ton of flares and horrors and ghouls and all the base stuff I already had tons of, so I'm set on all that. So it really was just getting.
I'm still building up my base collection.
Yeah, I have a lot of Vargulfs, but I might build the new one just because I do think he's a cool looking model. But I mean, I already have 3 Vargulfs. I don't know how many Vargulfs one needs in life. Probably not 4. So
Doug, you're just getting into the army with you didn't have any Flesh Eater Courts previously, or did you?
No, it didn't. Nope.
Okay. Cool,
I've never owned a Death Army, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, I knew you were excited about it, so yeah, I think it's really cool you're doing it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love the factions lore. It was actually the faction that got me to start the YouTube channel way back in the day, and one of my first videos that made it popular was my wife reading the intro into the first Flesh Eater course book.
Sure.
Cool.
I don't know. It's been wonderful, and then when they just injected this new life with Usharin and all the stuff with Neferata, there's a lot going on, and I was just really excited.
Yeah, I agree. Compelling on all sides. Very good. All right. Well, everybody out there, hey, if you haven't hit like yet, you should do that now. You should subscribe. You should do all those things that make all those dings because helps other people find the show. We really appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. If you want to support the show, lots of ways you can do that. Down in the description, you'll see things for hobby supplies. So you can just click through if you're going to buy anything for your hobby. If you're doing your own painting and such like that, getting ready for a new army, you can click those links. And if you buy anything there, it costs you nothing extra and helps support the channel. There's a merch store down there. There's Uncle Adam and I's new games. We just published our new zine recently. And we've got Tanks for the Apocalypse, our new game, plus support for Rain in Hell and Space Station Zero. All our fun games in there. Actually, we just did our first alpha test this last weekend of next. That was another thing we did this last weekend of the next game. I will say no more about it, except it went very, very well, and I am very, 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 very excited for the next game. So get ready. Also, of course, you can join the Patreon. Chuck in $1 for us, throw a couple dollars at the show. That's the Patreon's focused on review and feedback and taking your next step on your hobby journey. There's also a merch store down there and all that kind of fun stuff. So, as always, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Doug, thank you, sir. It was an absolute pleasure having you on.
Oh,
We'll have
absolutely.
you back
Thank you
again.
so much.
And for all of you out there, we'll see you next Wednesday.